to order at this time. It's currently 7:55 p.m. We apologize for the delay. Getting started, we welcome everyone. Quite a few of you to the community audience this evening. Thank you. It is Monday, October 30th, 2023, and we welcome you to the Montgomery Township School District Open Public Board of Education meeting. Would you commence with the roll call, please, for Secretary Trent?
Yes, Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Ms. Taylor.
Here.
Ms. Elak.
Here.
Ms. Harris.
Here.
Ms. Spina.
Present.
Ms. Waleka Jernigan.
Here.
Ms. Franco Harmon.
Present.
Dr. Spencer Walls.
Present. Would everyone please rise for the flag? Everyone please be seated and thank you. We do have a couple of announcements on behalf of the Board of Education prior to our student representative report. We are always grateful and thankful for feedback on our practices, how we operate as a board, including the scheduling of our meetings. Several community members have emailed us about that, and I do believe at least one of them is reflected on page 3 as correspondence received by the board on this evening's agenda. So we'd like to take this time to let you know that we are saddened to hear, according to those individuals, that the public has lost trust in the superintendent and myself on behalf of the Board of Education, because we are part of a whole, for rescheduling our October 2023 open public meeting. Our board secretary is the person responsible for those schedules and making sure that they're published properly as per the Open Public Meetings Act regulations and guidelines, with input from the superintendent and the Board of Education, of course. And likewise, 2 Board of Education members traveled out of state the week of October 16th, of which I am one, and 3 other Board of Education members were committed to obligations outside of the Board of Education. At some point prior to October 17th, our Board Secretary Trent was aware of the circumstance and was communicating this update to all of the board members. As such, there was not a quorum. The majority number of members were required to be present to facilitate and take action at our Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 Board of Education meeting. All board members were thus asked to provide their availability for the remaining days of the month of October, knowing that at least 2 of our presentations that you'll have the pleasure to witness this evening is required to take place during the month of October. The new meeting date was published, and it adhered to OPMA as stated earlier. And finally, also know, and please kindly accept that it is not unusual for boards of education throughout the nation, but here in New Jersey, to reschedule an open public meeting due to lack of a quorum. And I hope that this response and explanation satisfy those 2 community members' requests. And again, we thank you for your inquiry. So at this time, we will hear our student representative report from MHS Senior Sophia Robb.
I am pleased to report that the students of Montgomery are thriving. School spirit is high among our student body here at MHS. School spirit festivities started with an energetic pep rally earlier this month, highlighting our fall sports and their student athletes. As we transition from fall to winter sports in the coming weeks, our student athletes are ending their field hockey, gymnastics, soccer, or volleyball seasons. The seniors stole the show at Powder Puff with a great win for the class of 2024. The Monty Cougars football team celebrated a historic undefeated season and homecoming win.
Thank you, Charlie.
Our homecoming win also marked a personal 100th win for longtime Monty football coach Milich, who was honored last week as the New York Giants High School Coach of the Week. MHS's 2023 homecoming dance was a successful night of fun and camaraderie for the student body as we danced the night away under the lanterns. Students are grateful to all of the hardworking custodial staff and faculty members who helped make our homecoming dance and school activities such a delightful success. Recently, students have seen staff members wearing their freshest Monty gear with an important message that mental health is health, a sentiment that was echoed to our students with the opening of the Zen Den. The Zen Den is a space available to our students to help with emotional regulation and stress management. The Zen Den is available to students at the guidance office. Stress for some of our students is particularly high as the college admissions process is underway. To help aid in managing the stress, the guidance department has offered and is offering a variety of tools available, including a college admissions series titled The Admissions Game. The Admissions Game, or college series, helps students and parents understand the intricacies of building a competitive college profile. Also being offered is a virtual FAFSA workshop, which aims to break down some of the complicated aspects of the FAFSA process for students and families. The October PSATs were a success, and we are wishing all who are taking the upcoming November SATs the best of luck. This October, students recognized Hindu Heritage Month, LGBTQ Heritage History Month, National Coming Out Day, and Red Ribbon Week. In recognition of Red Ribbon Week, students were encouraged to take a photo of their natural high and share it to be entered in a Wawa gift card giveaway. On November 3rd, there is an upcoming Diwali celebration at 6 p.m. in the MHS Commons. All are invited to the event. There will be diya painting, rangoli making, music, dancing, and more. MHS's South Asian Cultural Club, also known as Sensation, organized a lively and successful Garba X Bollywood night, celebrating the diversity and unity that are values of our school. Trunk or Treat was a huge success where students were able to connect with the community and show off their extracurricular activities. National Hispanic Heritage Month ended on October 15th. Before that, students had the opportunity to learn more about Hispanic culture with an interactive Hispanic Heritage Museum on display in the Media Center. Students enjoyed another amazing opportunity to learn about different cultures when MHS French students hosted a concert by internationally renowned French singer, I apologize maybe for his name, Eric Vincent, on his farewell tour around the United States. Students from the upper middle school and 4 surrounding New Jersey schools also enjoyed this experience. The first edition of the MHS newspaper, The Paw Print, is out, highlighting 2 of our newest administrators, VP Vitali and Kukuru. Students are looking forward to the upcoming long weekend, and overall, the students of Montgomery are continuing to strive for excellence academically, physically, and mentally. Apologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia, for that outstanding report. So at this time, I read for the public our Board of Education Civility Report prepared in partnership with our Board Attorney, Stephen Quigley. So in the context of adhering to Robert's rules while conducting our school district's Board of Education's open public meeting, civility is about how people treat each other and how people respect the meeting protocol. Civility involves the display of respect for those who have positions with which one disagrees. Even though disagreement plays a necessary role in governance, the issue is how one expresses that disagreement. The board believes in listening to the concerns and values that underlie people's diverse perspectives on relevant district matters during public comment. However, all persons that speak during the 2 public comment time must state their name and address, as well as type it in the Chromebook provided at the podium. Remember to hit the submit button. Also, each speaker must face and address the board, not the community seating area. Public comment time is not structured as Q&A or debate. The board chair, secretary, or superintendent may ask the speaker to clarify different points. Otherwise, the speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak in a manner that is respectful and decent, not debating or accusatory. Consistent with policy number 9131, clapping, shouting, booing, or other forms of agreement or disagreement of a speaker's point from the audience. The board will suspend the meeting so that a reminder may be issued to the person or persons to regain order. And now we have reached the part of our agenda where the superintendent will submit her report, including 3 presentations that will immediately follow. Superintendent McLaughlin.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have 3 presentations, so I will be brief with my announcements. I'm happy to share that our students continue to rank among the top in their peer group in the SAT and the Advanced Placement AP tests. The class of 2023 mean SAT score was 1338, which was 272 points above the New Jersey State mean and 310 points above the national mean. Our AP test scores were equally impressive. 46% of the 1,463 AP tests taken achieved a top score of a 5, and 91% earned a 3 or higher. Additionally, Montgomery High School had 14 finalists and 62 commended students in the 2023 National Merit Program. Congratulations to all of our students. I'm going to begin tonight's presentations with the 2022-23 school year report to Student Safety Data System, or commonly referred to as the SSD report. There's no presentation, it's just I read. Okay. So as part of the New Jersey Department of Education requirement to submit the Student Safety Data System report information, I will be reporting out tonight on report period 2 for the 22-23 school year. So that was January 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 2023. Report 2, the incidents covered in this state report are identified as violence, vandalism, substances, weapons, and HIV. At Montgomery High School, there were 25 total incidents reported, with the majority reported under the category of substances. Other incidents included fighting and HIV. At Upper Middle School, there were 31 total incidents reported, with most incidents falling under the category of HIV, 9 confirmed. At Lower Middle School, there were 23 total incidents reported, with the majority reported under the category of HIV, 4 confirmed. At Village Elementary School, there were 19 total incidents reported, with the majority reported under the category of HIV alleged. At Orchard Hill, there was 1 incident which fell under the category of HIV confirmed. The next part of the presentation is our Interim Director of Equity, Ms. Faye Lewis. To report out on our HIV investigations, training, and programs.
Good evening, everyone. So, yes, my name is Faye Lewis, and I will be presenting on harassment, intimidation, and bullying, investigations, trainings, and programs for period 2, and the HIV school self-assessment report. So, here's what I will be covering in my presentation. I will review the HIV statutory definition. I'll provide insight as to investigations, trainings for staff, and school programming that supports our students. We will also look at schools' self-assessment grades. And lastly, I will share how to file a HIB report. So now we'll look at part 1 of the HIV statute, beginning with what constitutes HIV. So an investigation can be prompted due to a gesture, written, verbal, or physical act, or electronic communication. So it can be a single act or a series of incidents that are reasonably perceived as being motivated by an actual or perceived characteristic such as those bullets. So race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, mental, physical, or sensory disability, or any other distinguishing characteristic. Part 2 of the HIB statute is as follows. So it takes place on school property, at a school-sponsored function, on a school bus, or off school grounds. And a reasonable person should know under the circumstances that the act will have the effect of at least one of the following. So physically or emotionally harming a student or damaging the student's property, or placing a student in reasonable fear of physical or emotional harm, or it has the effect of insulting or demeaning any student or group of students, or it creates a hostile educational environment for the student. So on to our anti-bullying specialists and their role. On the right, you will see who our ABSs are and the schools that they work at. And then on the left, there is a brief outline of what our anti-bullying specialists do. So they conduct investigations, they chair building, school, safety, climate teams, and we'll talk more about climate teams a bit further into the presentation. They implement trainings and programs. The anti-bullying specialists receive mandated training in HIB law and protocols, and in how to conduct interviews and investigations. As the interim anti-bullying coordinator, I collaborate with the school ABSs, the Board of Education, and the Superintendent of Schools to prevent, identify, and respond to HIB of students in the district. I also provide HIB data to the NJDOE, and I won't be meeting twice, but Stacey Young in her position. She meets twice annually with the ABSs to discuss and strengthen procedures and policies to prevent, identify, and address HIB in the district. So as you can see on this slide, during this period, so that's January to June 2023, there were 119 reported HIBs and 29 were affirmed. So approximately a quarter were affirmed or founded. You'll see on this slide that in an effort to support our educators, trainings are conducted for all of our employees, so that includes school administrators, teachers, ABSs. These are just some of the trainings that were conducted. This is not an exhaustive list, but some of those trainings include the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights with Stephen Fogarty, so that's for our district and school administrators. The Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights with Somerset County Superintendents Association, that's for the district as a whole and school administrators. Peer relationships and conflict resolution for our school administrators and anti-bullying specialists. School climate and culture improvement for our school administrators and staff. And strategies for HIB prevention, which was for our school administrators and staff. So key to being proactive in supporting our students in their understanding of HIB is designing and implementing programming at every level. So this slide shows the number of programs implemented throughout our schools. There were 71 in all. So now you'll see some examples of the types of programming conducted during period 2. Again, this list is not exhaustive, but it will provide you with some insight as to the types of programming that take place in our schools. I'll just read a few of them. So observation of various history, heritage, and awareness months, that's district-wide. Cubs Culture Corner at Orchard Elementary School. The Great Kindness Challenge, also at Orchard. Peer leader visits at Village. The Social Institute lessons at our lower middle school, community rally at our upper middle school, and high school mental health awareness night. So this next slide is the HIV self-assessment report. So it is completed by the school safety team and helps schools and districts evaluate their efforts implementing the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. So each school has its own safety team, and their role is to foster and maintain a positive school climate. So the team needs to discuss and evaluate their efforts in implementing the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. The self-assessment serves as an opportunity for schools and districts to reinforce and strengthen their HIV prevention strategies and intervention programs, as well as policies and practices. These HIV grade reports are posted on the MTSD district website. So as you can see, there are 8 elements of the self-assessment. HIV programs, training on the BOE-approved HIV policy, other staff instruction and training programs, curriculum and instruction on HIV and related information and skills, HIV personnel, school-level HIV incident reporting procedures, HIV investigation procedures, and HIV reporting. So there's a total max score of 78. So this slide shows historical self-assessment data by school. You'll also notice that out of a possible 78 points, our schools have scored very well on their self-assessments and their respective self-assessments. So here we have our district's final NJDOE approved self-assessment score, which is the average of all of the school scores. It's actually a 75.4 that they have rounded down. And then lastly, let's take a look at reporting procedures so that we have an understanding of who can report and how to go about filing a report. So any student, parent, staff member, or community member can report. Students, parents, and community members can choose to report anonymously. Staff members cannot report anonymously because they are LEAs, they are local educational agency personnel. They are mandated to not report anonymously. The report can be verbal or written and be reported to any staff member. And a person wishing to file a report can go to the district website and click on the HIPSTER link. So HIPSTER is the platform that we use in the district. That's where we house all of our reporting with regard to our investigations, and it is compliant with NJDOE mandated reporting forms. This concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Ms. Williams, did you state what the maximum score was on the self-assessment? I think I missed it.
I did.
I think you did. I just missed it.
It's 78.
78 is the max.
So is there a way to compare between different school districts? I mean, how does this stack up against other schools?
I do not know the answer to that question, but Mr. Carlson, I can find that out.
Just year over year, I know the scores are improving, but have we seen the number of HIVs increase, decrease? And then another question, just to follow up, what type of programs are we putting in place that you feel are working really well to prevent or make sure that things don't occur?
So it's hard for me to assess the how well the programs are working because I'm new to the district. So I've been in the district for 8 weeks. But what I can say is that in speaking with our administrators over the 8 weeks that I've been here. I have had conversations with them about programs that they are considering, about programs that they've implemented, and I have a meeting with one of our principals on Friday regarding some thoughts about some programming as it relates to how to best engage our parents. Because we know that the research says that when parents are engaged, and the parents are very engaged in this district, we know that the research says that the more engaged our parents are, the better outcomes we see for children.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to call up Ms. Fiona Borland, who will be presenting on our statewide assessment results for the 22-23 school year.
Ms. Lewis, did you steal the clicker? It's a good thing we're friends. Okay, just joking. Okay, so good evening. I am here to present to the Board of Ed the statewide assessment results for the 2022-23 school year, so last spring's results. Tonight I'll be reviewing 3 different assessments, Access 2.0, the DLM, or the Dynamic Learning Maps, and then NJSLA, the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment in English Language Arts, in mathematics, and in science. So this is a lot of words to simply say that it is our intention to always protect student privacy, and when we have a student number in any population or subgroup under 10, we cannot report on that number in order to make sure that our student privacy remains that we're unable to identify any single student. So if you see a number that is missing, it is likely not missing, I will address it, but it is likely that our N was under 10. Okay, so the access test, what is it? Our access test is, it assesses comprehension and communication in English. It is used across states, so state to state, and so as students come into our school district from either another country or another school district, we do assess them using the access test, or Access 2.0. It does assess all 4 domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And it uses the WIDA standards as our anchor point, and it really is how is their English language skills developing. This is administered to any student in kindergarten through grade 12 who is identified as an English language learner. I would like to point out that in Montgomery Township, moving forward from this point on, we will not be using the designation ELS. We will be using the designation ML, which is multilingual learner. And that is a much more asset-minded label that we'll be using for our students. This test is administered between February and April. It rates students or ranks students on through 6 levels. We've got entering, emerging, developing, expanding, bridging, and reaching. And we only have 3 grade levels in which we do achieve the N, in which I'm allowed to share out. What I would like to just kind of have everybody think about when they are looking at this particular slide is that this isn't the same as the NJSLA, which is testing proficiency to a set of standards, but this is really monitoring our students' developmental progress. So it is important data to have because we can see as students progress through grade levels or progress in their own individual journey of becoming language learners or English language learners, that we want them to move along the continuum. We want to make sure our programs and our curriculum are helping them do that, but that really it is dependent on where a student enters their journey. So, some of our students are port of entry, some of our students come to us from other districts, and this is not just, I just don't want us to think of this as a proficiency standard, this is about a developmental standard. Again, any grade level I'm not able to represent, it's because the N is too small, and we will administer this again in the spring of 2024. The next assessment that we report out on each spring is Dynamic Learning Maps. The DLM is given to students who need to express how they learn differently than the standard NJSLS test. And so this is also a test that lets students be measured against themselves, and it measures their own academic progress, and it's not comparing them to other students.
And so this test is administered also in the spring, and at this time, we do not have a large enough population to report out on this. This test is determined by the child study team, the child is going to take that test, and so it is a much smaller number than our regular reporting out numbers. Okay, now we get into the meat of where the assessment that most of our students take across the school district, and this is the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, and these are our results from the spring of 2023. So this, we assess students in English Language Arts in grades 3 through 9. In math, we do grades 3 through 8, and then we do the first 3 levels of what are considered high school math courses, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. And in science, we do the benchmark grades of grade 5, grade 8, and grade 11. In English Language Arts and Mathematics, this is a level 1 through 5 scale. 4 and 5 are considered meeting expectations or exceeding expectations. So although there is one slide in which I'll separate out all of this data, most of the time I will be speaking of students who have a combined 4 or 5, who have either met or exceeded our expectations in achieving the standards. So we're going to start with all of the slides that I'm going to present next, only refer to English Language Arts, then we'll go to math, and then we'll go to science. So this slide shows you each individual level, the number of students that scored in level 1, in level 2, obviously all the way up through level 5. You want to look at pairs of columns together, and this is the comparison between the 2020 school year and the 2022 school year and the 2023 school year. You will see that in the last column, these are our students. This is the change in students who have achieved, exceeded, or exceeded the standards. And in every single grade level, we have improved our proficiency in English Language Arts. So that is very exciting. When you look at the first column, or the column right to the next, the one where it says change in level 1 and 2, you actually do prefer to see the negative number there because it means less students are achieving a 1 and 2 and moving along the continuum, and so that's the goal that we see there. This is that same representation in a bar graph, and also comparing it to the state. So what we have here is our grades 3 through 9, and as is a tradition in Montgomery Township, we far exceed the expectations of other districts or the expectations of the state, the achievement level of the state, and Montgomery students are really some of the best. This particular graph shows the comparison from 2019, 2022, and 2023. So 2019 was our pre-pandemic testing, and this will take you from pre-pandemic through our current testing. I don't go back to 2018 because in 2018 it was the PARCC test. So 2018 is PARCC, and even though a very similar set of standards, it was when New Jersey moved from what was the Common Core over to the NJSLS. So what you can notice is that in 4 of our grade levels, we actually have exceeded our pre-pandemic achievement level, and that is not where we want our final destination to be, but we are incredibly happy to be back well on track, if not exceeding where we were prior to the pandemic. And then what I'd ask all of you to take notice of is the trend line between the yellow and the green line. So again, the yellow line being 2022, the green line being 2023. Wherever our green line does not exceed the gray line, that means we're still working to achieve pre-pandemic achievement levels. Say that sentence slowly. Okay. This is the same 3-year study. We are looking at our 2019, 22, and spring of 22 and spring of 23, but according to our demographics. Very exciting and always a focal point when you really drill down and say, okay, great, we're really excited as an overall body of students that our students are doing great, but how are our subgroups doing? If you begin looking particularly at the yellow to green, we have seen everybody improve, everybody achieving with the exception of with our last subgroup, which is our L population. I will address that specifically in a moment. And then again, when you're looking for the gray line is the pre-pandemic line. So we continue across most of our categories to be trending in the correct direction. We are not there yet, but we are very excited to see very significant gains in some subgroups, with many of our subgroups, from the 22 spring to the 23 spring. When you look at ELL student data, there's a couple things to keep in mind there. One is where students enter the district, right? So that's a little bit of an uncontrollable data point, and so students might come in, and at any given year, you might have a particular group of students who are more port of entry students, or more students who are emerging in their language. And that is one explanation and aspect of why our ELL scores did not trend in the direction that we would have liked them to trend in this 22 to 23 school year. However, that doesn't stop the fact that we need to look at instruction, making sure that we have the right tools. There is a student rubric for each of our students that is designated as an ML, and making sure that there are teaching strategies available to each classroom teacher that works to support these students, and our ML supervisor really working hard with each of the building level cabinets to make sure that these resources are utilized across the board for classroom teachers. This is also an area in which we will provide additional professional development through both digital tools, asynchronous tools, in and hours, and through PD days to really make sure that although there, as I said, there are variables in here that are not within the school district's control, this has to be an area of focus to make sure that all students get what they need inside a regular classroom in order to grow. So some things that we're really proud of is that a majority of our grade levels are back or above pre-pandemic achievement levels. We still can always grow and always continue to achieve, but the trend line is heading in a good direction. We have seen universal design for learning strategies increase in the classroom as our administrators do walkthroughs and really, sit in with our PLCs, hearing our teachers talk about how are we meeting the needs of most children in the classroom, as many learners as possible, to really make sure that all learners can access the content and additionally show what they know. This includes data-driven and targeted instructional practices. I'm going to kind of touch on that on the next slide as well, so I'm going to give that a little quick attention here. And then we go back to classroom level Tier 1 interventions. So when we talk about the gap closure and the pandemic learning gap, we really want to say that we need to accelerate learning, right? So the students who did full grade levels at home, we may have missed certain standards, and you then need to accomplish that in the next school year. To do that, you accelerate learning, and you do that through in-classroom Tier 1 strategies, small groups, the use of technology, intervention lessons. All of those are the types of things that you might see in a Tier 1 class, in a Tier 1 strategy in a gen ed class. Okay, so some other things though, interventions. Really, what are we doing to make sure that those trend lines all head in the direction and that we not only meet but exceed pre-pandemic learning standards? So this is our second year implementing an assessment platform called STAR 360. STAR 360 monitors students' progress 3 times a year. It is instantly able to tell a teacher to give them a snapshot of where their student is. Teachers administer this in their own classroom. It takes approximately 30 minutes, and it gives you a snapshot of a student who is trending towards grade level achievement, a student who we need to be at watch, and then students who are in need of intervention. And that being able to be easily accessible for teachers is one of the biggest ways to impact instruction. This also means that an instructional shift from not just providing support to mirror the curriculum that is happening in the classroom, but to really identify that a particular student has this subset or this domain of skills that they need an intervention around, and having that kind of data allows us to provide better intervention instruction rather than just curricular support. And also, we have moved a lot of professional learning and selected resources to bolster our foundational reading skills and writing skills across our grade levels. At the high school, we also use STAR 364 in our English 9 and 10 courses, and that really gives us, again, data to help track towards GPA, as well as the NJSLA here. And in LA, we have the implementation, this is our second year of implementing the literacy lab classes, which is a period of time in which students who are identified as in need of support are able to have extra time and extra instruction at the English 9 and English 10 level. So those are our interventions. Okay, moving on to math. So just a couple of things, a little heads up about math when we get there, I know that this gets said every year, usually I'm not the one doing this presentation, but we know that a majority of our 8th graders do not participate in the Math 8 test. So when we get there, we will talk about that data, but 8th graders participate in every level of math for this year. There are students who are 8th graders who have taken the Algebra 1, the Geometry, and the Algebra 2 test. Additionally, as you see, students who are in 11th and 12th grade who may be in one of those classes are not counted in these numbers. Also, this would drive math people crazy. When I was doing this presentation for the first time, I was like, how come this does not equal 100? And so due to rounding, you often have a percent that is not 100, and that seems a little wacky when you're looking at math data, but we'll just go with that. Okay, this is the same slide I showed you with LA, so this is our comparison from each level from the spring of 22 to the spring of 23. I want to highlight, obviously, that we had a very small drop in 2 of our grades. And what I wanted to just highlight with the orange squares is that the drop is in the move from students who were at grade level in 4, and you can see that 1.5% moves over to students who are at level 3. It's a very neutral piece of data. Obviously, we don't want any student dropping, but I want to show that it is at that level is where we really want to focus attention and make sure teachers have that data to help move students just that piece over to cross that finish line. They are close, they are learning, they're growing, but we need to move them into proficient. And so just noting where the data loss happened in those 2 grade levels. This is just comparison to the spring, and again, in mathematics, Montgomery Township students continue to greatly excel. This is the comparison between your spring of 2019, spring of 2022, and 23. Again, your yellow to green is where we have our students from last year to this year. You see a lot of increase across the board, but at the same time, you'll see that we still need to trend towards the pre-pandemic achievement levels. In some areas, we still have some growth and some catching up to do. This is our demographics. Again, we see a lot of growth in our demographics. We have growth in every single subgroup from the 22 school year to the 23 school year. We also have several demographics who have now exceeded the 2019 data. We still have a concern of our L's, and so again, if our same students who are struggling with language development, it is not only going to affect ELA, it is also going to affect mathematics, especially in problem solving and deep thinking, and so we really need to make sure that they are a focus group as we go forward this year. So a couple of things that, again, we are incredibly happy about and pleased with is a trend line moving towards pre-pandemic and then eventually exceeding pre-pandemic levels. That increase in universal design for learning. You've been hearing this phrase, this term for many years. It is some of our math teachers that are doing some of the most amazing work. I've stood here before speaking more to you all about curriculum and standards, and what I always want you to think about is that English language arts is like a spiral staircase, kind of like the inside of the Guggenheim, and math is an actual staircase where there's steps. So in mathematics, when you're thinking about steps, skills fall off. And so when you finish 3rd grade, you're going to no longer have certain skills that are taught in 3rd grade. You're not going to see them again in 4th grade. Where in English language arts, you're always going to read, you're always going to write. So when it comes to having to do that accelerated learning, closing the gap, targeted instruction, it means you can't be one teacher in front of the classroom giving everybody the same lesson, and our math teachers have just really been some of the leaders in universal design for learning, making sure that students are getting the targeted instruction that they need in the classroom. So you turn into my next bullet point, which is increased data-driven instruction, and when we look at some of this data, actually I'm going to go back to this slide, some of the concerns that we were feeling in the math courses during last school year are the very concerns that were driving the choices that changed some of the middle school math offerings. So as you know, we have some new course offerings at the middle school at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level, and those curriculum adjustments were based on student need. We don't always need to wait for a state test to say this is what our students need. We are tracking student progress all throughout the year. Okay, so some interventions. So that, again, the continued need to grow. We are continuing our use of STAR 360 as an assessment platform to monitor our students 3 times a year. Bridges Math is on its second year of implementation. Last year was definitely our learning year of our K-3 math program. It was incredibly rigorous, comprehensive. Mathematical, complex thinking is involved, and our teachers are doing an amazing job continuing to become master teachers in the new Bridges Math program. Continuing that shift towards more data-driven interventions, and then the utilization of technology to help our students both increase practice through technology as well as intervention. At the high school, the use of our collaborative learning team times, our math PLCs are leaders in articulation focused on student achievement and instructional areas of focus. And then we have the continued use of both the math lab classes as well as math connection courses to make sure that all students are supported and are able to develop math proficiency. All right, moving into the science, I'm almost done. The biggest change between the NJSLA, ELA, and math and going into science is that it is a 4-point scale. And so we just have levels 1 through 4, with 3 being proficient and 4 being advanced. The NJSLA focuses on multiple domains of science as well as multiple practices. The next generation science standards really focused on what kind of scientific practices are in place. We look at investigation, sense making, and critiquing. So again, here we're just looking at a comparison between 2022 and 2023. We see that most of our grade levels have stayed close to the same. We have had a nice growth area there in the middle school science and a slight decrease in the high school science. Because these are benchmark years, they have a larger margin of changing based on the students who are taking it and based on the students in that grade level. It's not, because it's not consecutive grade levels. So it doesn't mean, though, that we're not looking at where to always have growth and always have an increased achievement, because we are. This is just your comparison to the state, and even though we are continuing to look at how do we grow our science thinking in our schools, we are still outperforming the state leaps and bounds, as our Montgomery students always do. This is our data from our 2019, 22, 23 data. Again, looking at our green and our yellow to green trend line, and looking at that 6% difference in our grade 11. But I would like to point out that there is a 20% difference in our 2019 to our 2023, and so that overall we have seen amazing growth in our science achievement at the high school, and that really ought to be pointed out. I mentioned this earlier at the very beginning of the presentation. When you see something missing, it is not that I forgot to put the data in there, it is that the N is too small. And if I put a little star there that says so, it makes it say 0. So I actually just want you to know that the N was too small in those two subgroups. But this is our subgroup data. And once again, looking at that yellow to green trend line, you are seeing continued growth across our subgroups in science proficiency. So things that we're very proud of is continued alignment to the NJSLS 2020. Even though that seems far away, we were not obligated to have the standards, the 2020 standards in place until the fall of 2022 due to the pandemic and all those things. And so that was a huge undertaking to align all of our curriculum to the 2020 standards, with the exception of math in LA, which is next year. We have really seen an increased development we've focused development on that next generation science thinking, really focusing more on science thinking skills. When students take this test, the NJSLS in science, this is not filled with knowledge questions. When we took science tests, they asked us types of rocks and layers of the earth. Here are labs, here are simulations, here's deep thinking, here's charts, here's graphs. What are conclusions you're going to draw? And so really focusing on those thinking skills more than just our knowledge skills. And again, looking at really implementing those ways, universal design for learning. How do more students access the content, and how do more students show me what they know? When we look at where to focus our emphasis this year in science, we're really looking at making sure that we align our local assessments to the NJSLA, a continued emphasis on increasing UDL. We are also looking at some additional new resources at both the middle school and potentially the high school. And we are always evaluating and streamlining resources for them to be easier for students to access. And that is our focus points for this year in science. Just concluding with this slide, that we in New Jersey public school systems focus on a multi-tiered system of support. It is the basic premise or takeaway from this image is that when we're looking at student achievement, you simply don't say they have this test score, and in order to make them have a better test score, I need to do test prep. But rather, in order to have students be more successful, you have to say, well, how do we have a positive school culture? How are our families engaged? What does the district leadership look like? How are the Tier 1 interventions in a classroom going? What does curriculum look like? And how do we support every learner along the way? So that concludes my presentation on the 23 spring data. Thank you.
So I was wondering if you could give some examples of techniques used through the Universal Design for Learning. This is a new program, so I think it would be really beneficial to all of us and also the community to understand what are the techniques, how you use those techniques, like how they apply to science courses.
Sure, so I'll focus on two areas. One is how do children intake content, right? So we always look at the standards, and I just want to differentiate here that if I am in a literacy class and my standard is on reading comprehension and writing expression, my ability to differentiate that instruction is going to be measured by reading and writing. If I'm in a science classroom, I might be able to do multiple things. I might read a journal article, I might read something out of a textbook, I might view a video, I might view a lab simulation. We have some of the coolest software that exists out there is allowing students to watch the simulation of a scientific principle. Like I can watch algae growing in a pond over multiple months and see how it affects the air quality around the pond. And so that would be one way. Another way would be the doing and constructing the hands-on lab. So when we say universal design for learning in a classroom, instead of me saying, this is my lesson today, and then I'll think about how other kids learn, I say, this is the concept I need to teach today, and let me provide some written resources, let me provide some audio-visual resources, let me just provide some tactile resources, and over the course of a unit, students should have multiple ways to intake content. Then you flip the triangle. How can I show you what you know? Now, one of our practices that helps us track data is common assessments for unit tests and benchmarks, but along the way, we have many different ways that students can show teachers how they are learning. So in the science classrooms and in the math classrooms, you often see whiteboards out, and that allows students to demonstrate their thinking in a way that teachers can watch their thinking. They might also write about it, they might also draw, and they might also respond to online simulations. So those two key takeaways in universal design are how should I, as a teacher, take this content, this objective, how am I going to give them many ways to engage with getting it inside, and how am I going to give them many ways to show me that they learned it. That's UDL in a nutshell. Thank you.
I have a question. So similar to the question I asked about SSPS, is there a way to compare, say, this district's progress to, say, the best?
Yeah, so there's two ways to do that. One is in a couple months, every school district is obligated to do what I'm doing, right? So we can, there can be a little scurrying of other district websites and just checking it out that way. To get the real official report, you have to wait to the New Jersey performance reports for the 23 spring data, and that doesn't come out till next fall. So next fall, just like we can do now, we can pull the New Jersey school performance reports, and the good thing about that is that's the official data reported from the spring. So we really wait for that, and then we do district-to-district comparisons.
So the NJSLA is with us still.
It is.
Hopefully it'll be with us.
I don't think it's going anywhere.
So the question that I have is around achievement levels. Have we maintained the same expectations across over the years as far as where we want our students to be?
So I
As
think
the state.
Well, so the state measures in two things, right? So the state's overall goal, and I believe it is for the year 2025, and I can let Superintendent McLaughlin know that if I'm misquoting something. The goal is 80% of your students to be proficient, and that's the big goal. So the implementation of the standards started in the year that they were created, and then the state wants us to get to that level of 80% achievement. We are incredibly high achieving school district, and we are nearly there in our achievement of that target number. I would like to see us, of course, achieve that target number and go beyond it. The next number, which is what is reported out once we get that New Jersey School Performance Report card, is the growth measurement. So it's nearly impossible for me with the data that's provided for me to calculate that number. I have to wait for the data, the state, because they're comparing us to larger populations. And so that's the second marker of achievement. Are we getting to a proficiency? That's what I can tell you tonight. Are our students growing at the level that we want them to grow? That number is still yet to come.
So Ms. Borland, I have a question around the development of our common assessments, particularly for the core content areas, the 4 major core content areas. Could you describe for us whether they're teacher created and how do you test the validity of those in terms of marking student progress and student performance, or if our common assessments to which you refer is derived from an outside or some type of external source?
So to the how are they created is is mixed. There are like our K-3 Bridges mathematics program, our teachers are using the published assessments that came with that program. Throughout the district and throughout the core content areas, we often take questions that are created by our teachers that match the standard. So that's always what's going to drive it, right? So you're looking at what does the standard say a student needs to achieve in this content area? How do we create the question that demonstrates that they know? There's also, the state and different resources that we use have question banks that you can go to like help match a question to a standard, and I can say, okay, well, I think that works, that one makes sense for us, and so we're going to use it. One of the amazing commitments that other districts, that I was so glad when I came to this district 11 years ago that we have in place, is our professional learning communities, and that's where you track the validity. So one of the reasons that you want your common assessments is to create that equity across the different classrooms. And when teachers get that time to sit down and meet in their PLCs and their collaborative learning teams, that's when they can say, if you have a question of a validity, if you have student performance that's incredibly skewed, then you relook at that question. So it's really through the PLCs and CLC plan.
Great, thank you. Any other questions by any other board members?
I have one. It's kind of adjacent.
Okay.
Question adjacent.
All right.
So
You teach math, I'm a little worried.
Actually, it was interesting looking at this data because it's great to see that some of the green is overtaking the gray from prior to the pandemic. It was interesting to me to look at how the lower grade levels are having more of a struggle based on what your data shows. The higher grade levels, especially at ELA, seem to be pretty much holding their own and have come back or surpassing. And I think that it's interesting that the state had offered the 3rd and 4th grade tutoring grants.
Yes.
So my question is, do we have any information on that yet?
I check it every day. So every
I did, that would be great to put, and they wanted to focus 3rd and 4th grade. I did go up, but.
So any of you can do this at home because it's a silly activity. In order to prepare for the application for the high impact tutoring grant that our district did submit, one of the things I did for my own knowledge in writing the grant was I backtracked and said, okay, if you are a current 3rd grader, and I said, what year was your year before? Where did I call the year the health precautions? Because at the high school level, the year that we had to have all the health precautions, it changed, and it did change and impact learning. But when you're little and you can't play a math game and you can't buddy read and you can't talk to your friend, that changes, right? So yes, if you track back our 3rd graders what they missed and our 4th graders what they missed foundational years. So that's where you're going to see, that's where we're still playing, that learning acceleration has to happen. So one, I check every morning to see if the grant has been awarded. The state, like the state sometimes does, gave us that October 11th date. My grant is still pending, and so is everybody else's, and the report from the state was they are still being read. So we're waiting for that. But in addition to that, going back to foundational reading, in our K-3 schools, we are purchasing, some is on its way. We are focusing on making sure that our teachers who need to do universal design for learning, who need to give offering different ways for students to learn something, we've ordered more decodable text, we've ordered more intervention materials, we've ordered more tiles for the younger kids to do manipulating of letters and sounds. And so there's a lot of focus on what has to happen in those grades to catch up and get them stronger. It is definitely the years to be focusing on. I do hope we get the grants. But I'm the first one to raise the flag out my window. Okay. Anybody else?
That concludes the questions. Thank you, Ms. Borland.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as I forward to our next and final presentation, I just would like to share something with the community, and including our board colleagues and other guests. So after a remark that was later described to the ACI committee meeting members at our last public Board of Ed meeting, it seemed appropriate to speak to moving our district forward, giving attention to subjects specifically related to student and staff performance, their emotional and physical well-being, and related outcomes. The persistence of gender inequality and a lack of understanding around sexual and gender diversities may drive prejudice in culture and discrimination in laws and policies in a range of contexts. Challenging historic exclusion and more contemporary regressions by breaking stereotypes and ensuring civil society's access to living a lifestyle in a safe and respected way is relevant to the global human rights agenda, and even here in our global human rights agenda. So we call on all persons, affiliated or not affiliated, with Montgomery in whatever capacity that may be, to uphold the inherent dignity of all people without any distinction by respecting measures in place to stymie racial discrimination, exclusion, intolerance, judgment, and including stigmatization of the LGBTQI plus persons, our Montgomery staff, and students included. So we're familiar with race, ethnicity, age, religion, disability, citizenship status, and socioeconomic level. And in some instances, it exposes LGBTQI plus persons to different forms of discrimination that may or may not affect their ability to enjoy their human rights and fundamental freedoms without distinction. And while some people are privileged, others face discrimination, myself included, and sometimes public scorn, including arbitrary displacement because of our multiple intersecting identities. So in those few contexts in which systematic data was able to be collected, it strongly suggests that the intersection of anti-Blackness and LGBTQIA+ phobia creates additional barriers to the full inclusion of said persons in society, maybe in the school district, maybe not. Similar dynamics affect other discriminated or racialized groups, such as those that are Arab or Asian, or migrant persons, or asylum seekers. These factors are exacerbated for people who are sexually and or gender diverse, and for those defending their rights, where the lack of intersectional approaches often precludes culturally relevant engagement, public participation without fear, reprisal, and even respect for individuals' freedoms and autonomy and liberties here. So to achieve true equality, and what is that? And as best that we can with the resources that we have, states have adopted an intersectional, non-binary approach that addresses the needs of the LGBTQIA+ population in its full diversity, and has involved them even in the development of those laws or policies And this includes, again, where the data is secured and guaranteed. Looking at disaggregated data that takes into account one's declaration of race or ethnicity or social status, developing a broader and more authentic understanding of how racism and LGBTQIA+ phobia intersect, addressing racial and ethnic disparities in access to goods or facilities or services, understanding the impact and legacy of colonialism on inequalities within countries, building our nations and our norms in our community, and the exclusion of some populations is required in order to develop these laws and policies and set a standard of decency and humanity. So, in my experience, the past 15 or 16 years in Montgomery Township, it appears that there has been a level of consistency with adhering to federal and state laws that incorporate an intersectional perspective to provide equal opportunities and eliminate discrimination in work practices and school-related opportunities. And we strive to do our best in that area. And because of this, we stand by our commitment to appreciating the well-trained and thoughtful educators, for example, who decide what books are taught in the classroom and what agencies deliver PD with our staff, with feedback, of course, and we're always open to that. We are a public school district in New Jersey where in any given year, we are either the top or one of the top K-12 academically performing states in the country. We trust and believe in our staff's compassion toward all our students, no matter who they are and how they present themselves. Our staff, too, our community members. So our faculty and staff perform great work here in Montgomery Township, and I've been the recipient of that awesome work. I mean, look at the growth that Ms. Borland shared with us with our ELA and math and JSLA student outcomes. And that is what we stand by. So we applaud the staff and students' hard work. I know it hasn't been easy, and it's just continued in the continued pursuit toward excellence and achievement, however one defines that for him, her, their selves. So I was recently told by an administrator that during a school walkthrough one day, a staff person expressed gratitude for the comfort felt to put up family pictures in their classroom where the person, according to the other, once felt, and I quote, "I didn't feel I could be who I am." And my response to that was just like, wow, so that's great. It is this district's commitment, right, to honor our DEI work, legislation, and that we celebrate when students and staff feel safe to be who they are and respecting the diversity in that. And not just based on those creeds, but even in their ideas and thought and achievement levels. There's so much diversity here. And experts have helped our staff with the use of the proper language when we communicate with one another. Because I'm older and sometimes I don't get it right, but I try to do my best so that I don't offend anybody. And I try to speak in a way that I don't exclude anybody. And that's just a part of my own affiliation, and I think all of ours with the district. I think we all do this. We all respect and include the variations of values and belief systems, and we continue to support our Montgomery Township schools. So I would just like to thank everyone for the privilege of your time. And at this time, I'm going to invite Superintendent McLaughlin to visit the podium so that you may deliver the final presentation on our contracted service with High Tops. Thank you.
On the last Board of Education meeting, there were questions regarding our contract with High Tops. Since then, the Board of Education sent me some questions, and I have the answers here in this presentation. So first I want to start with what is the New Jersey legislation say about LGBTQ plus inclusivity. So as you see, Chapter 32 is an act concerning diversity and inclusion instruction in school districts and supplementing Chapter 35 of Title 18A. The instruction shall highlight and promote diversity, including economic diversity, equity, inclusion, tolerance, and belonging in connection with gender and sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, disabilities, and religious tolerance. Examine the impact that unconscious bias and economic disparities have at both an individual level and on a society as a whole, and encourage a safe, welcoming, and inclusive environment for all students, regardless of race or ethnicity, sexual and gender identities, mental and physical disabilities, and religious beliefs. Section 18A, 35.4.35, the history of disabled and LGBTQ persons included in middle and high school curriculum. A Board of Education shall include instruction on the political, economic, and social contributions of persons with disabilities and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in an appropriate place in the curriculum of middle school and high school students as part of the district's implementation of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Another question was, how is a professional development provider selected? There is a need identified. It's usually based on the law or curricular changes. For example, we spoke before, we changed the math program, so all of the teachers K-3 needed instruction and PD on implementing the new program. Research is conducted. We research who offers this type of PD. Prospective vendors are then contacted. We follow the New Jersey purchasing laws. Depending on the cost, we need comparative quotes or a request for a proposal on page might be needed. In this case, we identified 2 vendors and selected High Tops based on their ability to meet our needs. Here's just a little professional development price comparison because the cost was questioned. As you can see, it varies across different types of PD that we have by day. These are like the per day prices that we pay. As you can see, High Tops falls right in the ballpark of what we pay other vendors. And I apologize, I don't know why it's all off than what's on my formatting. Okay. What has High Tops done for Montgomery Township School District in the 22-23 school year, so last school year? Professional development to meet the requirements of the LGBTQ plus and People with Disabilities Education Act from January of 2019 and our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Act of March of 2021. Professional development on sexual orientation and gender identity and expression, referred to as SOGI, to assist in creating a safe and affirming work and learning environment for all. Supporting Montgomery Township School District health teachers in understanding the new health PE New Jersey student learning standards. We provided affirming schools training to our schools trauma-informed teams and just definition and affirming schools, a place where people are accepted for the person they share that they are. The contract for this school year is also for only professional development. We have peer leader instructors. They will provide professional development sessions on how to lead the designing of age-appropriate activities for peer leaders, which are our students, to help create an understanding of affirming environments for all. But please note that professional development is for the staff who then will turn PD to the students. We'll be providing training to school counselors on how to best support LGBTQ plus students. We'll be providing PD on the history of LGBTQ plus in order to meet the New Jersey legislation that we started this presentation with. What has High Tops never done for MTSD? They have never done any student-facing work. They do not consult or write the health curriculum. They have not written any curriculum for the district. Another question was, what are the benefits of working with High Tops? Affirming language is used in our health classes when teaching content established by the NJSLS. Affirming language was presented to staff during the 22-23 Staff Professional Development Day. Affirming language is choosing words that are inclusive of people's truth. This might include sex assigned at birth, people who identify as, or preferred pronouns. How do we assess the work completed with High Tops? So we have, after PD days, we have staff evaluation surveys that are sent out. So when asked what was your favorite PD session of the day, 35% of the faculty identified High Tops SOGI training as the best part of the PD day in an open-ended answer. These are some of the quotes. SOGI training, it was the most relevant to my role, and the presenter was phenomenal. SOGI gains a lot of knowledge and made me feel more comfortable that it's okay that I don't know everything. SOGI, most pertinent to students right now. SOGI, because it gave me insight to a topic that may be touching some of my students and how to respect them. High Tops, presenter was knowledgeable and COVID, great facts and information presented to help change the way we think about gender. We need more of this, and as you can see, they capitalized that. Question, are all health instructional materials medically accurate? So our health and PE standards of 2020, all individuals should feel welcome and included regardless of their gender, gender expression, or sexual orientation. And as you can see, the standards say describe gender roles, stereotypes, and the potential impact on self and others, differentiate between sexual orientation and gender identity, demonstrate ways to promote dignity and respect for all people, and I won't go into all the specifics there. Inclusive schools and communities are accepting of all people, and they can feel welcome and included. And again, differentiate between gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. Develop a plan for the school to promote dignity and respect for all people, for all genders, gender identities, gender expression, and sexual orientations in the school community. Which part of the law requires us to spiral sexual content into the curriculum outside the health class? None. The school district uses the New Jersey Student Learning Standards in health to guide the selection of other curricular materials that might be used outside of health classes. Prior to grade 4, nothing about romantic or partner relationships is discussed. Grade 5 health defines gender identity, transgender, gender expression, and sexual orientation. Then within the middle and high school curriculum, these terms may be used to discuss political, economic, and social contributions of specific individuals. And that is the presentation. Any questions?
I have just one question. I guess the definition of what's medically accurate, because I didn't read the slide that was put together, but I still, I guess, cannot understand. I guess my understanding of medically accurate is different than what I see on that slide, because that slide does not talk about medically accurate information. It's more about, I guess, psychology or how we feel, not so much about,
I apologize.
why.
Excuse me for a minute. I don't think they can hear you in the back. Try to speak closer into the mic.
I guess I have a question about how we define what's medically accurate, because the information that was provided on the slide does not, I guess, answer the question that I guess I asked about medically accurate information that we use in the classroom and health curriculum. The information that was provided is more about description and more for psychology rather than medically accurate definition of the gender. So I'm just trying to reconcile what we teach our children versus what the medically accurate definition is.
So that was the New Jersey Student Learning Standards that was read off there. Yep. of 2020. Those are right out of the state standards.
But it did say that this is how they define what's medically accurate.
I never questioned the state as to whether some of their standards are medically accurate.
Thank you.
So I appreciate the presentation, and I appreciate, I guess, accepting everybody. And I think that's the goal we want to do. But I have concerns that really go beyond that. And so I move that Montgomery Township School District terminate the fiscal year 2024 contract services with
Board Member Collins, I'm going to ask you to pause on that. I would like to see if any of the board members have questions for the superintendent before you can answer your statement there. Yes, we do have some, so just.
Maybe just a clarifying question for me. As we read the section 18A35 4.35, and as we talked about the law or the New Jersey law and what's required, I think what I heard is that all those topics are to be covered in the appropriate place in the curriculum, which is why the state has placed it into health curriculum. Part of that was due to those perhaps religious beliefs. Parents could opt out of certain sections of the curriculum. The question that I have is in particular to high tops. Back in June of 22, when we saw the initial presentation from high tops, it was communicated that there will be a spiral in, and I know you answered this question, Mary. I'm just trying to state that the concern is coming from some of the language perhaps that was used by high tops. How the spiraled in approach of the curriculum is something, and the presenter actually did say there will be no way for you to opt out of it. So I just want to ask this question for you to clarify that the state law does allow parents to actually have the right to opt out of certain topics if it's against their religious beliefs.
In the health curriculum.
In the health curriculum. Are these topics spiraled into any other parts of our curriculum today?
As it's stated, it said the board will have an appropriate place in middle and high school students as part of the district's implementation of the standards, but it says that it has to have the political, economic, and social contributions of persons with disabilities, meaning it could be in history if they're learning about somebody who is a person with a disability, or is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender.
I don't think that's the issue. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Any other questions by board members? Thank you.
One more, just one more. I just wanted to highlight that only 35% of the staff said that it was really beneficial for them to be. Is that correct? How was that? Did you survey the entire staff?
Yes, but we usually don't get 50% who respond, so that's pretty much.
That's 35%.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Superintendent McLaughlin.
So my motion is really around some of the ways that have brought some misunderstandings, maybe, or maybe some misleadings. But my motion is, I move that Montgomery Township School District terminate the fiscal year 2024 services with high tops. Furthermore, the Montgomery Township School District will identify another agency to provide contracted service in compliance with policy 57.
There's a motion on the floor. Call the order, please. A second. The floor is now open for discussion. State your rationale, please, Board Member Collins.
State my rationale. Thank you, Board President. When I look around the school, chemistry team, robotics, yearbook, sports teams, I see a lot of diversity. And we're continuously reminded how important it is to see, understand, and embrace this cultural diversity. We have policy, I just mentioned it, 5750, that speaks to this entire range. Race, religion, language, national origin, all that is legally and frankly reasonably required by the state, including gender issues currently emphasized by High Top. I believe we need to seize the opportunity to bridge all of these and more closely bond our community. But in recent years, we've seen a split, with many of our parents being concerned about their ability to oversee sensitive content shared with their children, with little or no transparency. At the last meeting, I mentioned the video evidence of Project Veritas, which speaks to this opacity by High Tops. And we voted unanimously to suspend the relationship with High Tops while we researched and reflected as a board. Something I don't think could have happened if there wasn't some potential concern in all of our minds.
Thank you for your rationale.
So I would like to state for the record that our HITAPS evaluation is only limited to vendor performance. It's only performance evaluation of the vendor. Our community, students, our district staff are very important to us. Everyone in our district should feel respected, valued, and should feel included and heard. And that goes for our staff, for our parents, for our students, everyone who is our community. It's ours to care for, and we want everyone to feel united, heard, and represented. But HITAPS, for me, is basically a vendor who comes to our school and performs certain services. And I attended June 22 board meeting, and I heard HITAPS making a representation to our community of what type of services they will provide. And Stacy Rebusdale made the following statements. Students will learn medically accurate curriculum in an inclusive and developmentally appropriate environment. Students from all backgrounds will feel comfortable participating in the program. Students' religious values will not be violated, and all students will feel included. The curriculum will take values of the community into account. I have reviewed materials included in Montgomery Health Curriculum, and I know that our superintendent stated that they did not write our curriculum, but since they were assisting our professionals, our educators, to guide them in maybe answering some questions, I will just make a statement that they helped to write or form our curriculum. So HITAPS claims that they provide medically accurate information to our students. Here is one example of a lesson that our students learned. In 5th grade, they use resource. It's called It Feels Good to Be Yourself, a book about gender identity. In that book, our students learn that when baby is born, people look at the baby and they guess. Maybe it's a boy, maybe it's a girl. Maybe they got it right, maybe they got it wrong. The way the body looks like, it's a clue to what the baby gender might be. Is this medically accurate? In 6th grade, our students learned the following. Ideas about gender are often imposed on our bodies. Upon birth, we are typically categorized into 2 genders, boy or girl, depending how our genitals are read. Everyone gets to decide their gender identity for themselves, and this designation can change over time. Do our children learn medically accurate health curriculum? The second promise that HITAPS made was to assist with curriculum that would take values of our whole community into account. and make all students feel comfortable and included. Students' religious values were to be represented. In the past 2 years, I've been watching community coming to the board, and I observed that there is an unusual increase in the number of parents coming to the board meeting, raising concerns about health curriculum education topics. They are concerned that sex ed topics are being discussed outside health class, like morning announcements, surveys. Students have been asked about their sexual orientation, gender identity, and other personal questions in class. And I know that personally because I've seen those surveys because my kids shared them with me. It appears that High Tops curriculum divided our community. Instead of inclusion, trust, and respect for community values, we observe parents sharing their concerns and offering examples how this curriculum created division, mistrust, and violation of religious values. I believe that we have given this vendor a really fair chance to respect our community and perform the service that we wanted them to perform. But I feel that they failed to meet the expectations and the promises that they made, and they trespassed our boundaries of trust. So I would suggest to terminate that relationship and find another vendor who will fill in that gap.
Any other board members contributing to the discussion?
I guess I'm going to second that and just say that, it's a bit of an ineffective performance on the vendor side. I think that the opportunity for us to find someone that would fulfill the needs of our school district is our responsibility. And I also wanted to point out that I did go on the High Tops website, and I was surprised to see all the names removed from the board members, the staff members. So that was also concerning that we have a vendor that doesn't have a leadership listed on their main site either. So I would caution us to be more selective so we can fulfill the necessary duties.
Thank you. Hearing no other board members contribute to the discussion. Allow me to repeat the motion that is on the floor. There's a motion on the floor to which will render a yes, no, or abstention vote. The Montgomery Township School District will terminate the fiscal year 24 contracted services with High Tops. Furthermore, the Montgomery Township School District will identify another agency to provide contracted services in compliance with policy 5750.
Yes, Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Talon.
Abstain.
Ms. Vilek.
Yes.
Ms. Harris. Ms. Mina.
No.
Ms. Willett Jernica.
Yes.
Ms. Franco Herman.
No.
Dr. Spence Balls.
No.
We have 3 in favor. We have 4 opposed, 1 abstention. Mr. Carlson's motion does not carry.
So at this time, I would like to move that the Montgomery Township School District resume its contracted services with High Tops for fiscal year 24. Furthermore, that the school district will continue to identify agencies to provide appropriate contracted services in compliance with policy 5750.
Second.
The floor is now open for discussion, board members.
I'd like to say so. There's a few things. There's some logistical reasons.
Speaking to them.
There are some logistical reasons for us to terminate a contract which we don't have a termination clause in, meaning that we potentially would have to pay out the remainder of that contract and receive no services for it. There's nothing that has been provided to us to indicate that any of the services that High Tops has performed have been anything less than what they set out to do as far as providing professional development for our staff and our counselors and anybody else that has contact with students. They don't themselves teach our students, but they do teach the professionals that work with our students how to have empathy and how to understand that some of the things that adolescents today face, sometimes they want to have someone who understands them, who knows them, who they trust. And I think that it's very good that those are the people that are here in our schools that see our kids each and every day. I don't think that all of our faculty and staff are, amazing. They are amazing educators, but I don't think that they have all of the answers of everything all of the time. There's a lot of terminology that changes all of the time with regard to lots of things beyond just LGBTQ issues, but with regard to race and disability and neurodiversity. And there's a lot of very, very sensitive topics that you want people to be well-trained, and that they're going to understand that when a student is coming to them for guidance, advice, help, just someone to talk to, that they're going to be understood, that they're going to be listened to and understood, that no one's going to say or question their intention and who they are. And I think that, the idea of what High Tops does is provide the language around inclusivity for our staff so that they can best serve our students. Again, there's been absolutely nothing that High Tops, we've done our due diligence. Multiple board members got onto a phone call. We've all done research into what our contract provides. We've all done research into what this 35-plus year organization that has been providing these services to our community. There's nothing in the Project Veritas video that can, I think, be used to say that they're doing anything in the Montgomery Public Schools that is in any way questionable. I think that terminating a contract when you're in the middle of it is just a really bad practice. And how many vendors would want to enter into a contract with Montgomery in the future? We just pull out when we feel like we don't want, or we don't like the publicity of what is happening with them outside. So I definitely second that we reinstate, and I hope that we continue to provide the best possible education for our students, and that they feel valued, respected, honored, and that all of their identities, they know that this is a safe place, this is an inclusive place, and you are loved and valued here in the school district.
Further I can acknowledge that despite how the video was obtained, some members of the community and on this Board of Education lost trust in High Tops. This is work that we'll immediately consider and implement to repair the narrative. High Tops has offered to Pamela, to the community as well, We are fully committed to training our teachers and support staff to grow their professional capacity as vigilantly as we are to ensure the best learning experiences for all of our students. We hear everyone's voices, and we exercise our duty to investigate the comments on the Project Veritas video. 4 Board of Ed members met with the High Tops Executive Director, Lisa Shelby, last week to inquire specifically about the accuracy and the veracity of the statements that we all heard on the video by her and High Top staffers. Lisa unequivocally asserted that statements were taken out of context, not capturing the true meaning and intention. Immediately following September 26th Board of Education meeting, the board chair collected questions from all Board of Ed members so that Superintendent McLaughlin could reply via tonight's earlier presentation. There's enough evidence and explanation at this time that led to the motion to resume the fiscal year 24 contracted services with High Tops, including the logistics stated by another board member. All board members supported a temporary step back to research this matter. We don't wish to publicly operate in a way to undermine the diligence of our staffing and identifying agencies that provide professional development. However, feedback from our Board of Education members and the community members matters as well. The request and vote on September 26th was a reasonable one, and it was a fair one. We examined this issue from a bird's eye view rather than a narrow one. We, as the Board of Education, have a responsibility to listen to the community's concerns and act accordingly and with measure. And we did that unequivocally, unapologetically. We want to make the best decisions that serves our staff, our community, and our students in the most responsible light. We accumulated facts, we trust our efforts, even in disagreement, and our votes reflect the due diligence that was conducted. Board members have any further commentary?
I actually have one more. So our original contract with High Tops, which was for year 20, fiscal year 23, included the services that were actually student-facing. So High Tops was to provide curriculum writing service, plus they were supposed to provide 60 hours of workshops directly, teaching directly our students. That did not happen. I understand that the administration changed the contract and took a different approach in working with High Tops. But I would like to understand the reasoning behind the change. Why did we pull out and we chose not to have the direct assistance with writing of the curriculum, and why we decided not to let them talk to our students directly?
So we went under contract. The contract that you're referring to from 2 years ago was signed in April of 2022. Then they came and presented at a board meeting in June, based on the, I think it was the end of June. It was June, it was very end of June. Based on the community's concerns, we pivoted and did not follow the original plan. So the contract was to start July 1st. It had not even begun yet, and we pivoted and changed from having any dealings with curriculum or with students to just professional development.
So that's the case, and I really appreciate that you took community considerations and questions and concerns into account when finalizing the contract with this vendor. But if they do not work with our students directly, how can we explain students advocating for them so strongly if they don't have direct contact with them?
They are a local community resource that is known in the local area.
But that they have continued that relationship with them. We would never interfere with that relationship. It's under personal finance. So I don't understand their concern of High-Touch being a vendor versus another company coming in and filling the gap for the learning and professional development support that we would need instead of High-Touch.
Yes.
I just want to add one comment, which is I really think at the core of this for me and what made my vote is that we still need to work on effective communication as a community. And I still feel like we are not effectively communicating, and that is at the root of this for me. I also want to make absolutely clear that this vote was not based on not supporting our students and not supporting our teachers. That is the very first thing we want to do. We wanted to have the opportunity to ask questions and to seek more clarity. But at the end of the day, I'm committed to effective communication, and we need to continue to work in that direction.
And just to follow up to that, we want to identify agencies that work with us, are transparent with us, and do the best thing for our community. And I do feel strongly about the trust being broken in this particular case. And like I said, I even looked it up this morning to see whether the names of the executives are listed. And as part of any decision-making process for all of us, I think it's important that we understand the leadership and the resources that are managing such a project that is impactful to the community.
And I just want to confirm, or maybe speak into the mic, please, so they can hear you. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify as well. When we talk about professional development days with High-Touch, that's similar to when we had Dr. Daniels, right? In our schools, educating our staff, providing tools, resources. When we have our training present, when we have KIP trainings, these professional days don't look amazing. It's just our vendor with our staff and just providing those tools, correct? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So I thought it was interesting. First of all, I wasn't aware of the exhibit that I referred to. Now, so you're saying that if we would unsuspend this, we would continue this contract and then look for another vendor at some point? Is that was that the second part of your?
Yes, the staffing will continue to conduct their due diligence in identifying agencies to provide not only the contribution or the building of staff's capacity with the health curriculum and those standards, but all of the components of policy 5750.
So have we got a timeline on this? Finding additional capacity?
Well, we usually vote on things like that in January, right, or for the next year, or when they come up through ACI. So like, if the vendor is going to be vetted and looked at, then we would have it come through our ACI committee. Okay, and then at that point, usually Ms. Borland does a presentation on the companies that are going to provide PPE, and vote to have or not have them provide.
Superintendent McLaughlin, would you contribute?
Sure.
To respond?
I'm presuming the contract that would be through June of 2024, we would finish the contract for this school year. As for vetting out other agencies, we're constantly looking at PD opportunities and calling consultants based on our needs.
See, I'm concerned about 5750, the whole breadth of it. They speak to of many different groups. And I don't think the parents coming over the last year really spoke to the fact that they don't feel listened to. And so I think we have to do something to, well, communicate. I love what Michelle said. We need to communicate and understand those other views, and I don't think we are doing that.
Say that last one.
And understand those other views. I don't think we're doing that. We have people coming in on various grounds, moral, religious values, and I think we've got to at least communicate with them. And as I said before, make that a two-way communication, not just one way. Something else with that.
So I don't know, Mary and Stephen, could we provide some sort of an oversight till the end of the contract to ensure that all of the committed responsibilities and nothing beyond that is being done with high tops? Perhaps that could address some of the issues, a bit of an oversight. Yes.
Some type of-
So that would be an administrative responsibility. That responsibility would fall to the superintendent and be delegated to our building principals to ensure that that High Tops is providing only the services contained in the 2023-2024 contract.
Thank you, Stephen. Hearing no other questions or comments at this time, roll call. Secretary Jones, please.
Yes.
Just to remind everyone, this is the motion on the floor to resume the contracted services for fiscal year 24 with High Tops.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson.
This is the motion on the floor to resume the contracted services for fiscal year 24 with High Tops, the current school district that we're experiencing.
With the option to look for other members.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson.
No.
Ms. Dowling.
Yes.
Ms. Filak.
No.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Spina.
Yes.
Ms. Waleka Jernigan.
No.
Ms. Franco Harmon.
Yes.
Dr. Spencer Walls.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
So now the next item on our agenda is our first public comment, to which I will read the instructions, and in a personal manner will require my exit, and our first Vice President, Cookie Franco Harmon, will continue to chair the meeting due to adjournment. So action agenda items, public comment. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages input from the public. Members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board regarding the action agenda items only for up to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. All comments must be directed to the board. Before you make your comment, however, please state your name and type it in the Chromebook provided at the podium. Being mindful of privacy rights regarding students, board employees, and board members, and to avoid any liability on the part of the speaker, the board discourages defamatory and discourteous remarks. The public comment portions of the meeting are not structured as question and answer sessions as cited earlier, but rather are offered as opportunities for the public to share their thoughts with the board. The board may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the issue has not been handled in the appropriate chain of command, usually starting at the school level. Responses may be provided at the end of this session. Board Secretary Chen, you want to commence with action agenda public comment? Please state the action agenda item you'll be speaking to. And don't forget that you signed in is the Chromebook.
Members of the public, please step up if you would like to speak. Sign in on the Chromebook, please, before you go up to the podium.
My name's Kerry McCoy. I have 2 kids in MTSD. You guys finally got me up here. You finally got me up here. First of all, before anything, I'd like to say, what's that? Are you going to interrupt me now?
No, just for a second, because the public comment right now is for the action agenda items
Yes.
only. So if it's,
Yes.
it's not, it's what action item
What you
agenda.
just voted on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, I want to state, I'm sorry, I don't know your name is, ma'am? Yes, yes.
Michelle Valley.
Michelle Valley? Okay, I would like to, I don't know how you would have voted on this, like, on the issue, but I appreciate the comment about communication, okay? I would also like to say, I know there are a lot of young kids here, and the way you were reacting to the speeches, I'm assuming that you are with the LGBT community, and I would like to say, what I'm going to say is not about you.
Sir.
I know, I'm supposed to address you guys. Okay, it is not about the children that are here, the kids that are here.
Please address the board.
I am, right now. The kids that are here. I support them, and I support their learning environment. Okay? This has nothing to do with their lifestyle. I'm very much a conservatarian. I do me, you do you, right? So as long as your actions and rights don't impede on mine, I'm fine with that. And we entrust you to teach our kids facts, things that happen, things that do happen right now in the terms of science, reading, writing, all of that stuff. And while I do understand counseling, believe me, I've got a kid with an IEP, a kid with a 504, okay? My son today, I just had to go in for like the 5th time this month to speak with his counselor. So I understand counseling and how important it is. But you know what? I didn't ask if my counselor has ADHD. I didn't ask if he was specifically trained in ADHD. He offered that information to me, and it did console me. But you know what? I don't need him to understand necessarily ADHD to understand my kid. I need him to make him feel, like you all said, included, okay? Safe, understood. His counselor does not have to have ADHD to understand those things, okay? You don't have to be gay to understand that somebody is gay and that someone's picking on them. You just make them feel safe, and if disciplinary measures are necessary, you discipline the student that was doing the infraction, okay? Regardless of what they're like or what they believe. This argument, this is what I wrote down before. I'm sorry, I wrote this all just at the beginning of the meeting. This argument isn't about facts. It's about beliefs and ideology. We're not supposed to be teaching kids what to think is how to think. I would close with all the other probably 10 minutes of stuff that I wrote down. This is a very upsetting issue, and of course, we only get to talk about it and maybe change 1 or 2 minds, which would have made a big difference after you voted on it. Thank you.
If we have community members who would like to speak, can we please line up so that we can have everybody come to the podium right after the next one, in interest of time.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Serena Rice. I'm a resident of 25 Honeysuckle Court in Skillman. I'm also the proud parent of a trans student in our district who has benefited tremendously from a staff and faculty in our school district who understand his journey, who have been able to walk with him, provide the kind of safety that you all have been talking about wanting to provide, and to also understand that his identity is medically accurate. I heard questions about whether describing the reality of trans people is medically accurate, and I would direct you to the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the American Psychological Association, the premier medical institutions in our country that all affirm the reality of transgender identity, the importance of gender affirming care for children, and have I think answered the question for us, bringing to bear decades of research, listening to the medical experts about this reality. The reality is that there are children in our district who are transgender. I have been fortunate enough to walk alongside one of them as he has come out of feeling so unhappy and insecure in his identity and able to then come into knowing who he is. He is now a peer leader in our high school. He is on our high school president's student advisory committee. He is able to speak with a loud, strong, confident voice because he has been in a district where people see him, support him, allow him the space to know who he is and feel confident in that. I'm so appreciative of our district's work to understand what is emerging in medical science, but is medical science, and have been able to then provide an environment where he knows that he will be seen for who he is. That has included a lot of things that are relevant beyond the health curriculum. Most of the teachers who have been the most important advocates for him are teachers who are not his health teachers, but being able to hear stories of people in his community, thank you, in our various disciplines in the school has been so important for him. And so I just want to thank the school, the board, the district as a whole, for all you have done to create a safe environment for my son, and I hope that you will continue to do so.
If you will be speaking at any point, please feel free to go and sign yourself in.
This is Lisa Shapiro. I'm at 647 Township Pond Road in Bowen. Everybody here has been in school, and it's directed to the high tops thing too. Everybody here in this room has gone to school at some point in time. Everybody knows what bullying is. Somebody's been a victim. They've been a perpetrator frequently. Probably the majority are the people who stand on the side and go, "This isn't me," and just the mouth shut. It's important, and I want to just direct this from a different point of view. There are kids in other districts who are no longer with us because of bullying, because of the fact that they were different. A friend of mine's daughter's best friend down in Middletown killed herself last year. There's a girl down in Ocean Township where bullying was being videoed online. She's dead now. She could take her own life too. Rockaway Township just got fined finally for the death of another child who was bullied in 2018. So we don't want this taught in schools, obviously, so we have to assume they're learning it online, or it's behavior learned at home, unfortunately. So the schools are now in a position where they have to counteract what these children sometimes are learning outside of the school district. They're responsible when the kids are in here. And as a reminder for the people who want to talk about the reputation of the school district, I don't think having a kid kill themselves because there was bullies in the school is really a great thing for the reputation of the district. And I'll remind you that Rockaway Township just had a $9.1 million fine. And if you think your taxes are high now, let's have that happen a couple more times and then really feel it in your pocket. So there are other aspects to this than the touchy-feely, what you think, what you feel. There's fiduciary responsibility, there's the responsibility for the life of some of these kids, and there's a responsibility to counteract sometimes things that people are learning which are just not okay. And that's it. Thank you.
My wife is going to type in my name because I wasn't expecting to speak today and I didn't bring my reading glasses.
Okay.
So I apologize. My name is Mark Kaminsky. I live at 208 Berkeley Avenue in Belmead, New Jersey. I moved into this town about 20 years ago, basically because of the education, the school system, but also for the diversity and the inclusiveness. The U.S. Constitution says that all men and all women are created equal. It's not based on age, sex, race, religion, sexual preference, or orientation. Everybody is treated equally. As a result, there's no group that should be treated better or worse than anyone else. Everyone must be treated equally. If anyone took any time to listen to what the statute said, this is not a situation where we have a choice to say we should do this or not do this. This needs to be done. What's troubling, though, and which has caused me to come up to speak, is the number of people on the board who, under the auspices of saying, I think that my view should be viewed, are using that to discriminate against other people. And that's troubling. You can't say that my religious beliefs are such that you have to respect my religious beliefs to the exclusion of somebody else. That's against the law. Council would tell you that. That's why the statute is here. There's a separation between church and state. The board here has a very difficult job. And I have to tell you, I commend all of you. The passion that each of you show, the dedication to come here every night, the number of people who come to the crowd today is truly impressive. I would love to see that kind of a crowd on a night when we're talking about math or science or those things as well, but that's beyond my control. But I do have to say, the amount of work that goes into all of this is just truly amazing. And I can say I came here on one night, on the night before Halloween, to see what was going on. But you guys do it every day. And for that, I commend all of you. Thank you very much.
I just want to remind folks, as Board Member Donnelly reminded me, I was remiss in reminding everybody that, as was read earlier, we would like to refrain from clapping after somebody has, shared their public comments. So just a reminder for future public comments. Thank you. If there is nobody else speaking for action agenda items only,
Sir, could you put your real name to the Chromebook, please? Not name one, please. Thank you.
That's not nice.
that's not what you
Finally caught up to it. How's that?
All right, I'll repeat it. Jeff Grant, Belmead, New Jersey. So I had a lot, very, very different things to say today because it was completely unexpected that we've had a change in process. And really, my remarks tonight are about the process. You've really gone around the process of including the parents in this very, very important discussion. You had the decision made by this board without including anybody in this room, and that's a mistake. And the problem is, you had board members tell you, Stacy Robustelli, the Director of Education at High Tops, represented that they were going to spiral in their gender education through all the subjects, so parents couldn't opt out. Yet you stand for religious rights for parents that might want to opt out. You had Stacy Robustelli tell you, and she introduced herself as queer, by the way, that
when you're going through the parental objections, you produce this slide. It says, young kids are impressionable. If you teach them about being gay, they might become gay. And she said, no, that's not true. No, that is true. She's lying to you. It's been proven. Young kids are extremely impressionable. Now, I don't have anything against anybody that's gay, LGBTQ+, or whatever. They're individuals. They contribute to make our community special. They make America great. I love them all. But when people lie to us about what they're doing, I get very, very annoyed. Stacey Robesnelli is a liar. You've heard me talk about lying and deception before in this meeting. What is it? It's evil. And now you listen to the comments from some of these board members that had some very important things to say, and you voted to keep the contract. And the reasons I'm here to keep the contract are logistics. You're in the middle of it. Oh, and we didn't have a termination clause in the contract. You didn't have a termination clause in the contract. Did I hear that right? How can you take care of our children and hire an organization like High Tops? It's going to affect the mentality, the entire psychosexual growth of these kids, and not have an escape clause in the contract? And you admit that? That's a breach of fiduciary responsibility to not have a termination clause. And then, oh my God, what if the other vendors find out that we terminate contract? Who cares? We're the customer, and our kids are at stake. And if that's your reason, and if your reason is we want to have a discussion about it and learn more,
You have 30 seconds.
here's your discussion opportunity. You could have learned a lot more. You chose not to because you're afraid to learn more. You're afraid of the facts of what's happening around you, that you're risking the future of our kids because you've got some other agenda, whatever that is. It's wrong, it's a mistake, and you will all bear the shame of what you've done.
Just a reminder, this public comment is for action agenda items only, so if you come up to the podium, please make sure you state what action agenda item you are speaking to. Thank you.
Believe it or not, I have 40 years experience on the computer, but I get pretty nervous coming up here. Really short. In regard to health classes, reminder, the curriculum is set by the state. Parents can opt out. They can opt out of any health class if they feel uncomfortable with their child being in. That's great. Some say they want you to choose a different vendor. I don't understand this because you're looking for this guidance. Other vendors are going to give the same guidance. Hopefully, High Tops is a reputable, long-standing, wonderful organization. I've lived in town for 30 years. My children did K through 12 studies in Montgomery. I am grateful for the well-rounded, inclusive education they receive. Our school is not a microcosm. Our students' education is preparing them for the greater, diverse world. Compassion and understanding are the valuable lessons they are learning to. Thank you.
Got it. Hello, my name is Alina Blenos, and I am a proud daughter of my mother. Thanks to the school last year, I was able to explore my gender identity and figure out what was comfortable for me. I have figured out, because of my school system, that what feels right, and I have been kindly examples for my teachers of how comfortable I can be with a different identity that I do not identify originally. And I'm thankful for everything, for my school, my teachers, and all my peers for making that a safe environment for me.
Hi, I'm Micah Feliciano, and I am a proud transgender man. And I would like to say, in regards to the LGBTQ, the high tops, I stand here today, and with the help of my school, with the acknowledging transgender people, acknowledging gay people, it's really helped me significantly. I was not forced to be trans. No one told me to be trans. I am trans because I am trans, and that is okay, and I'm okay with that. And everyone should be okay with that as well, not as just to let me live and learn that inclusivity and learn that I am still going to exist no matter what. And thank you.
Hi, I'm Grayson, 122 Monroe Avenue in South Mead. I just want to say thank you to the board. I've mentioned here before in the past that I'm a mental health professional in the community. I've seen the way these issues affect our kids in clinical work. Have seen the impact of high tops, noting that taking the members or board members' names off their website. If you Google high tops, you can see now how angry community members have gone on to high tops Google and shredded them in reviews. In this climate, let's just look at what happened in Lewiston, Maine. If I were a board member in that organization, I would not leave my name on a public-facing website so that some wingnut could show up at my house with a gun. So just as a counterpoint to why their names may not be there, not affiliated with them, I have no idea, but that's, my best guess. Referencing medically accurate, this has been mentioned before, but there is actually, if you look in the dictionary, a difference between sex and gender. So if you keep talking about gender, but what you mean is biological sex, then you are the one who is being inaccurate, right? And that is not a complicated concept. It's also pretty offensive that board member Filak would ask the question, how can the students be advocating for high tops? Do they not have the opportunity to follow these board proceedings? Are they unable to do their own research? Are they somehow empty vessels who are supposed to just lack opinions of their own? It frankly greatly concerns me that a board member would ask a question that so completely undermines the intellectual capacity and ability of our high school student body to think for themselves. That's exactly the opposite of what we want in terms of what we think our board members should be doing. We should be having board members who advocate for our kids' ability to think for themselves. Lastly, when board member Filak again said that the voice of the community hasn't been heard about this agenda, I feel like this is really simple. This is what the state of New Jersey, the electorate voted for. They voted for legislators who made this policy. The township of Montgomery voted for the Board of Education members who are sitting here who just had this vote. I mean, I know that some people don't believe that the outcomes of elections are legitimate anymore, but they are welcome to run themselves. They are welcome to run for the Board of Education instead of coming up here every single meeting and demanding a seat at the table that they are not a part of. If you want to be a part of it, be at the table or vote differently, campaign for people, or better yet, get in a time machine and go back to 1950. But the people of New Jersey, this is what they voted for. This is not
Hi, my name is Debbie. I want to thank you, Mr. Marty Carlson and Tanya and Joanna for pushing for this and listening to parents. So on the video, the high top says, sometimes there are other ways to implement curriculum, ways that parents can opt out, using racial justice and inclusivity classes. This is not about LGBTQ, this is about the integrity of this vendor, nothing else. Thank you.
I'm Tad Wright, and I'm a student of Montgomery High School. And the high school has actually helped me a lot figure out my gender identity and how I want to express myself. Like before going into high school, I had no clue what I was gonna, like, what was happening in my life. I just knew I had all these feelings and I had nobody to talk about with it. But then, like, I talked to my guidance counselors there, and even if it wasn't my guidance counselor, I still talked to any guidance counselor there, and they helped me through so much. And it's because of all the training that they went through to be able to help their students, like, succeed in life. Like, if I didn't get the help with that, I might not be where I am today. Because I do struggle with mental health, and the school system definitely helped with that when it comes to, like, the LGBTQ plus community. So I just wanted to say that they do help, and I wasn't forced to be trans or anything like that. I genuinely, like, just had to explore and figure it out on my own.
Hi, my name is Maya Edwards, and I'm a part of the Montgomery High School community. And I basically just wanted to say that I've seen firsthand how impressionable students can be, because I am a part of the peer program, and I've been through Peer 1 and Peer 2. And we have just started entering back into the school system, being at OHES, being at BES, connecting with the students, and as well as talking to them. And we have clearly seen, and as well as talking to the administration all throughout the district, we have seen that they want us in the schools, they want us to build a better connection, and they want us to build a bond with these students because they need it. Because of COVID, we've lost a connection with our students, and since they are so impressionable, as you guys have continuously say throughout the meetings, we are here to help them. We are here to be with them. We are here to guide them with what they want to explore. And we can't just sit here and limit them just because, like, parents were uncomfortable. Parents are always going to be uncomfortable, but it's more uncomfortable to see that your child is uncomfortable being in a school where they're not accepted, being in a school where they're not allowed to talk to each other about how they feel or what they're going through or how they identify. We are restricting them from who they are. So at the end of the day, we're just scaring kids. We're saying we don't want them to be who they are because it's not with our beliefs. We don't want them to be who they are because we are uncomfortable with talking about it. You want to build a connection between you and your child, but then you're restricting their safety within the school. You want them to go to school and be safe, feel accepted, but then you don't want them to talk about and explore their identity or talk about and explore themselves as a whole. Being in peer has taught me so much about students themselves, about building connections and building bonds, and restricting them from that, especially with your parent. What are we restricting ourselves to? How are we going to build in a community where you feel as though you're sending your child to school just to be there, like not to build a bond, not to build a connection? That's why I am proud to be a part of Peer 2, because I know that I am implementing a difference. I'm being there for a difference. I'm talking to these kids. I'm making sure that they feel safe when they are being talked to by me. I'm making sure that they feel safe when they're telling me all these different kinds of things. It's like, I want these kids to feel safe. And like, coming to school and not feeling safe, it's scary. And I just want them to be like, I want their voices to be heard. And restricting their voices isn't going to help them.
That's it for public comment. Superintendent McLaughlin, I don't think there were any questions for you. So our next item on the agenda is committee reports. We have committee reports from the MTA.
Thank you. It feels good to stand. It's been a long meeting. Good evening, board members, community members, administrators, and colleagues. Thank you for coming here tonight. Pleasure to bring the the MTA report to you. Thank you, Superintendent McLaughlin, for sharing all of that information on TV around the High Top program, and to give staff the ability to have the knowledge to support all of our students and make sure there's a safe, affirming place for all students here in Montgomery. The decision that was made was based on data, based on credible information, and not based on any type of extremism. I do appreciate that, the way that we vetted that and went through it. I want everyone to be mindful of I was listening to some words during the discussion, mindful of words that we choose. Be very intentional with them. We can't say that we want everyone to belong, but we can't say we want everyone included and in value, and then follow that by the word but. You have to realize that people that are in this audience, people that will watch this video, and how they're going to interpret that. They're not going to feel included. They're not going to feel valued. They're not going to feel like they have a safe space, like they belong, once you include that word but. Moving on from that topic, I'd like to thank Mrs. Borland also for sharing some of that really exciting data. I know it seems like it happened so long ago, but our school district's doing a fantastic job. We have the scores to prove it. We're rebounding so well from COVID, coming back from COVID. It really is to be celebrated. And the fantastic part about it too, which I don't know came clear through the presentation because it was all based on state data, was simply that we don't rely just on the long time it takes to get those data results from state mandated testing. We have that as a resource, and we also have internal data that we use and we look at. So we don't sit back and wait. We are always assessing and looking at what we're doing in the classroom to meet the needs of all students and to make sure that we continually adapt and change to meet all of those subgroups and all students within our district. So we continually look to improve teaching and learning here in Montgomery. That's what we do. A couple of fun things that we're doing within the MTA, certainly fall or October specifically, is full of a lot of fun things. We have a lot of community events that the MTA was participating in, one of which was our annual virtual family book series that we've been doing for the past, I think, 3 years. So it's begun, and this is for students in Village and Orchard Hill. Every family that attends gets a free book. The first night was held not too long ago, just a few days, October 26th, entitled Abdul's Story. Abdul is a student, a young child who loves to tell stories, but he has a lot of difficulty writing and trying to get it down on paper. So I'll leave the rest of the story to you if you ever want to check it out yourself, but you can find out who inspired him and who helped him become and get over that a little better. More dates will be announced for future stories as well, so stay tuned. We also did trick-or-treats for the MTA. This is also our 3rd year in a row for that, right at the upper middle school parent pickup area, where we gave out treat bags with books and other Halloween treats and goodies for kids. All you had to do was drive around and you were greeted with a trick-or-treat bag. We also did our Halloween costume exchange, so we had pickup boxes at all of the, or donation boxes at all of our school buildings. So thank you to anyone who donated a costume, whether it be a staff member or a student who didn't need it anymore, or even just families who dropped it off. We were able to compile all those together and put them out for 2 days in exchange for parents and students to come by and pick either parts of costumes, the whole costume, whatever was there. And it was a great opportunity to put those costumes and give them a second life. So we do have some extra ones as well, and we keep maintaining those year after year, so we have kind of a running inventory of costumes. Also, we participated in a community's trunk or treat. It was a great day, a great event just this past Saturday. Thankfully, it was Saturday, not Sunday. If you've been following the weather, we've been getting plenty of rain, so that worked out well. And one of the last things that we did was we understood there was a need for a DJ at the middle school fall festival. Well, we heard that need and we fulfilled that need. So we made that hopefully a little bit more entertaining with a little DJ. So when you're happy to support the community, don't have to ways like that. If you need any more information or like any more information, we welcome you to check out our social media platforms, our website, and we also send out communications through the PTA newsletters for any upcoming events. Gives you also information on how you can sign up for our mailing list too, so you can have it come right to your inbox. Hopefully it doesn't get derailed and go to spam. The last thing, just before I leave, I want to bring up our new equity co-chair. So if you can just introduce yourself so the board members and everyone else knows who's working with our equity. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Kim Fisher.
My name is Tammy Fisher, and I serve as the secretary to the Director of Special Services in the district right now. I am here this evening to introduce myself and Heather Edwards. We will be the new co-chairs of our MTEA Equity Committee. Heather and I are excited to continue the extremely important work that our Equity Committee and our amazing former chairperson has been doing for several years now. We're committed in supporting the original mission statement of ensuring that the internal practices and the actions of our local association adhere to the principles of anti-racism. We want to remind the Montgomery community and all MTEA members that we are here to support and maintain diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging during these very challenging times around our globe. Thank you so much for your time.
Board delegate reports. Anybody have reports from TSA and JSBA and Services Commission? Hearing none, I will move to the board committee reports. Assessment, Curriculum, and Instruction Committee. All right. Equity Committee. We have none. Okay. Operations, Facilities, and Finance. Mr. Todd is not here. Policy and Communications Committee.
Yes. I'll be as brief as I can be. We met on October 19th from 8:15 to 9:30 in a virtual setting. We discussed quite a few policies, 5111, 5514, and 8500. These policies and regulations were reviewed and will be put forward for first reading on this evening on our agenda. We abolished policy 8540 and 8550. These two policies are now incorporated into policy 8500, which is food services. Therefore, these two policies need to be abolished. Updated policy number 0167, the public participation in board meetings, and that's already taken effect. The technology director placed a laptop at the board meetings to use so that way we can input everyone's sign-in in a log spreadsheet, and we're able to better access that information. BOE members' attendance at board meetings we discussed as a committee, and we would like to create a policy clearly stating that board members need to attend board meetings in person. There is no remote access provided for board meetings. Policy 5756, one PCC member voiced that no class of students should be given preferential treatment and that the district should look at whether the district should have this policy. Policy 0143.2, student rep at board meetings. Superintendent McLaughlin explained the process of how a high school student is elected as a representative to the Board of Ed at meetings. Members of the student council may run for election to become the student rep. The entire student body votes. It was suggested by one PCC member that the student rep be given more of a direction on what they would like to hear at board meetings. And lastly, we spoke about a representative from Strauss-Esme. It was requested that Superintendent McLaughlin contact Strauss-Esme to have a rep attend a future PCC meeting to help explain the use of the word mandated in terms of policies and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
I have some questions for policy.
Okay.
One thing is I would like to, again, encourage that we have somebody look at whether or not we should be looking into an AI policy. I know I mentioned it before, and you brought it up, but then we're going to follow up. And I know that so maybe next time we can do something like that. I just want to make sure in the spirit of transparency, which you always do speak to, that policy 5750, right? Just come up. 1 second. Yeah, 5756. You said one PCC member voiced that no class of students should be given preferential treatment. I'd like the public to note that policy 5756 is protection for transgender students. That somebody on our policy committee voiced that no class of students should be given preferential treatment, and then the district should look at whether the district should have this policy. Just want to make sure that we're clear. I hope that nothing is happening to policy 5756, protecting our transgender students.
Any other questions for Ms. Dowling? All right, Human Resources Committee.
Sorry, can I just respond to the question about AI? So AI is going to ACI. Sorry for all the acronyms, but we are following up with AI, so I will circle back in terms of the AI. Okay?
Anybody else? All right, Human Resources Committee met on October 10th. The second annual substitute job fair is scheduled for Wednesday, January 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. at early this year, January or February of 2023, we had our first job fair and we got approximately 5 to 6 substitutes from that job fair, plus some other additional connections. So this was very successful. That's why we're repeating that event next year. Related to school district substitutes, our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources brought to our attention legislation that changes the number of days a substitute can cover. What we have consistently done was 20 days plus an extension of 20 days upon request. Now the state has come back and said he can no longer ask for an extension and that they can only be there for 20 days. So these substitute days are for unplanned leaves. This is not for pre-planned long-term, which is covered by our leave replacement policy. We are fortunate in our district to have low staff turnover. The largest uptick that we have seen was in 21-22 school year, where we had 45 staff members resign and 28 retire, but for the school year 22-23, we had 21 staff members resign and 10 retired. So there's a significant drop in the 21-22 school year was because of COVID issues and everything related to that. So our HR team have started brainstorming on ways to seek the input of our staff by conducting state interviews that will help the district in moving forward with their retention efforts. That is all I have. Anybody have any questions? All right, and we move on to acknowledging the correspondence to the board, approval of the minutes, and the correspondence to the board acknowledging that we have received in the past month 73 emails from community members. Okay, we need to make a motion for approval of the minutes for September 26th Assembly Session 1, September 26th Assembly Session 2, and September 26th Business Meeting minutes.
So, second.
Yes, Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Dowling.
Yes.
Ms. Phelan.
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Spina.
Yes.
Ms. Willick-Durnian.
Yes.
Ms. Franco-Herman.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Next is new business from the public. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages input from the public. Members of the public are allotted one opportunity to bring any new business to the board for up to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. All comments must be directed to the board. Before you make your comment, please state your name and address and type it in the laptop that's now available for you. Being mindful of privacy rights regarding students, board employees, and board members, and to avoid any potential liability on the part of the speaker, the board discourages defamatory and discourteous remarks. The public comment portions of the meeting are not structured as question and answer sessions. The board may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the issue has not been handled through appropriate chain of command, usually starting at the school level. Responses may be provided at the end of this session. Public comment now open.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Adam Hackle. I'm a faculty member here in the Montgomery Township School District for the last 22 years. I currently am a music teacher here at Orchard Hill Elementary School, the upper middle school, as well as Village Elementary School. Thank you for the opportunity to share just a few of the great things that are going on here at the Orchard Hill Elementary School. Under the leadership of Dan, Lisa, Jen, Jessica, and Amy, our school continues to grow and thrive. At the beginning of our school year, the paraprofessionals of the OHES Early Childhood Campus were focused on integrating our new students into the classroom and the social pairing that fosters social emotional learning. A key developmental task in the ECC has been potty training, which will continue until each individual student achieves their set goals. This is important at Orchard Hill. One of the key goals in kindergarten is fostering a sense of belonging, welcoming, and safety in which a child feels drawn to wanting to come to school and is excited about the activities they do while they're there. Our teachers in the kindergarten use a color day activity, as most students who come into kindergarten are already familiar with the primary colors and they wore those specific colors for the first couple days of school. This gave them an opportunity to grab onto something that they're familiar with, and then giving them the pride, dignity, and encouragement to explore and challenge themselves in the future. The second grade Fultini class celebrated the Family Morning Meeting program. They had many parents participate. They enjoyed greeting each other respectfully, sharing and doing movement activities called left and right. Finally, all students shared their published narratives with their guests and parents. It was a fun way to end the unit and celebrate their stories with family. Some of the titles that were written were Giraffe Licked the Car, Crazy Waffle Day, and A Picture Fell on My Head. This was just the first of many, many morning meetings to come. Finally, in music, we celebrated Latin American Heritage Month with many artists like Jennifer Lopez, Gloria Estefan, along with music of Peru and the Spanish Renaissance. The second grade class learned to do a mariachi dance, which I taught them, combining history, culture, music, and kinesthesiology. At OHES, the faculty, staff, and administration ensure our students feel safe, excited to learn, and can't wait to get off the bus and do it all again tomorrow. Thank you.
Just a reminder, in the interest of time, if you want to speak, please line up and type in your name so you're ready for come up to the podium. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stephen Ruff from 27 Lilac Way. I want to start by thanking you. I definitely don't envy the job you have to do, and you guys make it look easy. I wanted to talk to you today because on September 8th, Montgomery hosted Plainfield for an at-home football contest. As many of you may know, this was a tumultuous game with a questionable officiating crew penalizing Plainfield with 36 flags, and Montgomery with 8 flags, including a flag on the marching band for playing stand music. Racially insensitive language was directed to Plainfield players throughout the game. The chain of events climaxed when Plainfield's coaches were ejected after standing up for their players, for acting as leaders. A security concern arose by the end of play, which resulted in the spectators being held in the stands while police escorted the referees to their vehicles. Immediately after the game, the Plainfield superintendent acted as a leader and called out for action by the NJSIAA, while our administration remained silent and said nothing to our community. My son and his colleagues shared their concerns with the school administration, specifically the principal and the superintendent via written communication. The response they received was punctual and professional, yet dismissive. When pressed a second time, the administration indicated they wanted to allow the investigation to play out and remain silent in order to let the situation calm down. They also shared with my son that they already raised their concerns to the governing body. But still, no broad communication was sent to the student body or the parents. I see this as a missed opportunity to use this unfortunate situation as a real-life example for our students to learn from. This is how we grow as a community. You preach about right and wrong, you preach about tolerance, acceptance, how to navigate conflict, bullying, and more. We heard it all tonight. But when the time came to be a leader in the moment, to show our students how to deal with adversity and potential misdeeds, you failed our students. And you failed our community by remaining silent. To be silent is to be complicit, and we deserve better.
Good evening. I'm sorry that Dr. Zelda Spence Wallace left because I had some comments for her, but I will make sure she gets a copy of what I'm saying tonight in the mail. A tremendous lack of judgment and character have been demonstrated by the board president. To pose in that manner in a most public place, in the presence of minors, including a 10-year-old, the areola were mostly covered, a slight difference from being topless. Would you be comfortable seeing this attire on your weekly grocery store run, at Thomas Sweets with the kids, at the annual fireworks? There were more, excuse me. Okay, you're interrupting me. Please don't take time on that. Yeah. Can you add some time back on the clock for me, please? These people were distracted.
Go ahead, Ms. Church.
There were more people at that stadium than in our entire town. And why does a highly educated woman feel the need to publicly display herself in this manner? The public can you please?
We ask the public to refrain from making comments. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Church.
Thank you. The public Instagram account that was shared on this has over 1,300 followers, and yes, the owner graduated from MHS 4 years ago, but she has many followers with younger siblings. Didn't we teach our children? You don't put things on Instagram or post things. Once it's out there, it's viral. I teach my kids that. It takes just one person to circulate a photo, and you can't take them back once the genie is out of the bottle. Those photos came to my attention via a student, a current student. So yes, students in this district have seen these photos of the school board president. There is no conspiracy on that point, and to suggest otherwise is either naive or disingenuous. To be a public figure is to be held to a higher standard and requires exceptional judgment. To be a school board member is to model mature, appropriate behavior to students, including personal behavior. As a school board representative, you are responsible for the curriculum that's passed in our schools, so any reassurances from you on the health curriculum and deciding what sexual content is appropriate or not for our students are meaningless now. You have publicly embarrassed yourself, your family, your fellow board members, your running mates, and your community. Not one of your fellow board members has publicly supported you on this issue. This on top of a surplus of questionable activities this past year. And you have no one to blame for this public outcry about this other than yourself. Some say there's a small minority disturbed by this behavior. If true, why do they bother commenting on it at all? But it's their right to do so, just as I have a right to speak my mind on this or any other topic. It's unfortunate you won't speak publicly on this incident, but rather have your daughter do it for you. So let's restore standards to the community and faith in the Board of Education. We also have a comment about these
You have 30 seconds.
community members that are spreading outright falsehoods about candidates running for the Board of Education, but now the Champions campaign is itself repeating these falsehoods. I have them here on their flyer. Why can't the 3 board members here running for re-election run on a record and not lie and disparage their opposition? It is beneath the role of a Board of Education member to lie. You are not worthy of continuing as a Board of Ed member if you are stating outright lies about anyone. Thank you very much. Hello, I'm Jean Scar, 132 Stats Farm Road, and I had to come up and speak to what was just said. First of all, Dr. Spence Wallace is an amazing person who's been vilified by the people running for the Respecting Parents campaign and the people who follow them, and mostly on an uncensored Facebook page, which I don't follow, but we get sent all these quotes from different people all the time. Very negative. That's where that picture also showed up. And I have to say, my gut was for her to just come out and talk about it in the beginning and be done with it, because it's actually not really that big a deal. When you're at a Beyonce concert, and you're with your 2 grown daughters and your grandchild, and you are sitting near Oprah, and you have the opportunity to show your stuff and like just have fun in a public place that is not a grocery store and is not a public library or the municipal building or a school, then why not? She looks spectacular. So she is not deigning to talk to you about it because it's a non-issue. It's just something that you guys have been pumping up to try to hurt her. I am so impressed with her calm and her graciousness all the time. She has been abused by people. She has been lied about. And I have to say, as far as our campaign, the Champions for Students, which I help out with, we actually make it a point not to lie. We only ever say anything that we can show proof of. We don't say things that aren't true. So you can say it, Janet, but it doesn't mean it's so. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Narula, and I reside at 20 Carousel Chase. My views here represent my own and not reflective of my or any organization, group, business, people, persons living or dead. So there you have my disclaimer. Public participation and doing that without the fear of reprisal. I had something written, but I heard a lot of things tonight, and I decided to redo that while I was sitting here. People should be able to publicly participate and not fear that they're going to have retribution online, at meetings, and in their personal life. But you know what? That doesn't happen. And we do need to bridge our community so that everyone feels united, heard, respected. Everyone should feel respected. But do they really? Yes, trust is being broken. And in some cases by people on this board, and their family members and their friends. I am sick of our town being divided. Everyone belongs in Montgomery, New Jersey. Every race, every color, every religion, every economic status, whether they are renters, homeowners, gay, straight, or whatever it is, they have the right to be here too. But instead, there are people directly insulting community members, Board of Ed members, calling teachers that I work with groomers. Sick of that one too. And anyone who disagrees is made into memes and ridiculed on public forums. Intimidation of people who disagree and their businesses also affected. How dare you? Is this acceptable? Does this unite people? Does this show respect of all parents and of teachers that work in this district? I don't think it does. I want my town back. I want decency, humanity, and respect back. Yes, restore standards to the community. And please make sure that you vote.
Karen Anderson, Belmead. Just because you say it's true doesn't mean it's true yet. We could say that about a lot of things. Just because you called it decent, that it's okay to wear pasties and walk around public, just because you say that's okay doesn't make it true. A large majority of people, not everybody, but a large majority consider it indecent.
You can't change what's indecent. There's rules. It's sort of like a compass. North and south you can't change. You can't change a moral compass. Walking around with pasties and having your picture taken and then having it posted on your daughter's website. So yes, 1,100 or 1,300, whatever the magic number is, can see it. It's indecent. And what goes into your mind to get up that day and walk around with pasties and a little shrug on your back and think that's okay and that you're now a woman or you're proud of yourself, you're going to walk around. Okay, a lot of us don't get that. Okay? And we don't want that as a role model for our kids. You want our kids walk around thinking that's okay? Well, that's what you've just proven, that it's okay to do that. That's upsetting. It's immoral in my eyes and a lot of people's eyes. And I agree, there's a lot of division in this town, and it's upsetting, and it hurts. Pray about it every day, I'm not kidding, because it hurts, and we shouldn't be like this. But it is, because we come from two different perspectives, we can't bridge, because we can't even have conversation here. We get to say something to you, go sit down, and hope you answer the question, because maybe it's not specific enough. As some young lady said at the last meeting, specific questions are often asked. And I actually want to give you credit, because I sent a lot of emails. I didn't get any emails back, but I heard answers tonight. The presentation you did at the beginning, I appreciate that. I understood. I heard answers. I heard Zelda actually answer some of the questions I sent. And there's one other comment I want to make. Sorry, I didn't plan any of this. So somebody commented to what Joanna was saying before about the question about why kids came so vehemently in support of high tops. That was one of my questions that I sent to the board. And again, I heard a lot of my questions being brought up here. My question was, I heard the superintendent say that High Tops was not involved in curriculum or directly interacting with students. And it was very conflicting to hear her say that last board meeting and have a lot of students say, don't take High Tops away, don't take High Tops away.
You have 30 seconds.
So I'm trying to think, nobody wants to take High Tops away from individuals that want to go to High Tops. The doors are open on Witherspoon Street. The confusion was, which I think Joanna was trying to say, is why so many people seem, it made me feel like they really were interacting face to face based on the contract. So that's where that question came from. Thank you. And I wish we could all get along a lot better.
Chris Newman, Skillman, New Jersey. Everything I'm going to say can be backed up by videos, so none of this is lies. At Board of Ed meeting earlier this year, board member Felix suggested replacing some books that make students feel bad with ones that are more positive. This was the start of a local conversation about book banning and the many subsequent false claims that there is no interest in banning books. They can call it replacing books or taking books out of circulation for review, but it delivers the same result. Fewer choices for our students and decreased opportunities for students of color, LGBTQ, and trans students to see their lives reflected in the school's library. Board Member Carlson stated at a recent meeting that the board is not banning books or gays. Thank you, Marty. Which is true for one reason. There are currently not enough board members who can vote in favor of book bans. But if a respecting parent slate is elected, they will have enough votes, and they will replace, review, or whatever euphemism they use to hoodwink the public, ban books. One member of their slate, John Sangiovanni, had a Facebook post up for 10 years, which stated, in reference to the Boston Marathon bombing, quote, "These acts of violence against the United States and others in the civilized world originate from the Muslim religion. Tell me what other religion promotes this type of violence against others," end quote. It seems a reasonable assumption that Mr. Sangiovanni might be in favor of removing library books that portray Muslims in a positive light. What else might we expect if respecting parents candidates are elected to the board? It seems likely they will vote to end Montgomery's adherence to New Jersey State Policy 5756, which protects the rights and accommodation of trans students. Failures of our school to follow this policy will invite a lawsuit from the Attorney General's office, the cost of which will be borne by local taxpayers. More importantly, repealing this policy will make our transgender students less safe. It also seems reasonable to assume they would try to influence the curriculum to reflect their worldview. This is already happening in several New Jersey school districts, and there's no reason to think they'll be immune. Indeed, Board Member Wellick Jurigan recently asked her to be given a list of all the science textbooks used in the district while failing to explain why she wanted such a list or what qualifies her to evaluate the science curriculum. Undoubtedly, and as we have seen tonight, they will seek to limit or change the health curriculum, starting with firing and not replacing hot tops. The damage with the election, with the which the election of respecting parents, candidates will cause to our school districts, our students, and Montgomery's reputation cannot be overstated. The Board of Ed incumbents who are running as champions for students believe in supporting all students. They have focused on meeting the academic needs of every student in a space where they feel safe and respected, improved school safety, supported school mental health services, encouraged collaboration over divisiveness, opposed book banning, and strongly believe that no student should be made to feel less than due to other people's beliefs. If your values match theirs, please vote for the entire Champions for Students slate. Thank you. Also, the most ignorant thing I heard tonight was you can make a kid gay by telling it gay. It's idiotic, it's stupid, it's wrong, it's ignorant. I have 14 more seconds, I could go on.
My name is Gabby. So on August 1st, August 18th, I sent an email to the board. I followed up on the 18th because there was no response. Then I came on the 22nd in person and I read it. And then I followed up again on October 5th and still no response. This was about the publicly posted topless images of board president. They are damaging to our school's reputation. She represents our school at international events as well as when politicians come here. What was his name? Harvey came here. So she is basically, she's basically represented our school. And none of you have responded. So does that mean you all agree with this image of her? And does that mean that now the teachers also can also post topless pictures on the internet? Is that where we're going with this? Second item that I want to ask, it's been going around this little rumor that Zelda doesn't have a doctorate degree from Kean University. And I personally don't care about if she has the qualifications or not, but I do want to know if we are being deceived. So she lied, so I can't ask for that. So, and also wanted to address what happened to strategic plan. We had 5-year plan that was started 2017 and ending 2022. It looks like it's abandoned. Where is 2023-28 plan? Are we prepared to balance our budget? Are we reviewing residential market with new developments? Do we have spaces for those families that might be moving in, staffing, transportation, all within the 2% tax cap? Are we prepared for the changes in population? Why did we have high absenteeism in the students? Are we following up on that? Is there a plan to investigate it and find out? Did we meet kindergarten enrollment projections? And what is our financial and strategic goals? Where can we find it? Thank you.
Ms. Churchill already spoke.
I know, but I'm referring to policy 0167 that allows me to speak after everyone else has spoken.
Well, the question wasn't asked if everyone has spoken yet.
Okay.
I'm sure nobody else.
Okay, I just didn't see anything.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Thank you.
Thank you. I do appreciate, excuse me, can I have attention of the board members? Okay. Can you stop the clock back at 3? Thank you. So, in addition to what I spoke to earlier, I wanted to ask, and I'm sorry that Zelda Spence-Wallace isn't here, but does the board now change its stance on the niche rankings? Because on August 10th, after niche showed a further fall of Montgomery rankings, the Montgomery News reported Monty Supervisor debunks niche as a valid measure of public schools. However, a selective group of niche rankings was touted by some board members in their campaign website as a symbol of their records. These particular categories had nothing to do with their efforts. And no, they did not include the rest of the niche rankings.
which included the administration and teachers giving poor ratings. And I love teachers. My sister's a teacher. My husband's a teacher. We have educators in my family. I didn't do their ranking. But my explicit question to you, which I would like answered this evening, is did the Montgomery News get it wrong? Do you still stand by debunking these rankings? And will the board members up here today, using the partial report as a way to garner favor, own up to not reporting the entire story, as well as the superintendent's debunking of their rankings? And I also wanted to ask, because the book banning came up again, I'd like to know what the definition of book banning is. Is it not in the school, not in the class, the curriculum, not in the library? I understand books are available widely in the library. I'm not really sure. I would love for those candidates that are running, or for any of the board members, to describe your ability to either ban books, remove books, whatever it is. Just say what it is, because my understanding is you just approve curriculum. And book banning nonsense is just ridiculous. And also, I also would like to reiterate what Gabby said. There has been some talk about Dr. Spence-Wallace removing the title of doctor from a lot of information, so it's been come up that we would like to have that clarified. I think that would be a good thing to clarify for everyone, and we could put it to rest. I also would like to know, and she's not here again, if she could advise why she received a fee or honorarium exceeding $250 from the Education Labor Relations Council in South Africa while she's president and a board member of the Montgomery Board of Education. I know that's a lot, but thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, I know I was here before. I just really have a question as to why that was allowed. Because it seemed like she kind of went all over the place with that and didn't address one thing. So that's my question. That was, you know.
So, I looked up policy 0167 at the time because also that's something that's never happened before, so let's figure this out. And it does say that no participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. I'd also like to just read out loud that this policy also says, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about specific individuals by name connected with the school system. May I continue? Okay. So, President Spence-Wallace is not here, and yet people are continuing to talk about her. I've always been told that if you're going to talk about somebody, you talk about them to their face. I know that's cheap, so you know what? I'm sorry, I'm not going to have a conversation back and forth.
Well, then don't say stupid things.
Sir, excuse me, let the board member speak.
So, at this point, what Dr. Spence-Wallace has worn at any place, or what her degrees are in, or anything else, would be complaining about a specific individual by name connected with the school system. And it says right here, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about specific individuals by name connected with the school system. Whether that be staff, board members, students, you need to please stop disparaging us. And one other thing, you know, the whole idea of transparency and all of these emails, and yes, again, thank you, Superintendent McLaughlin, for a great presentation. You did answer many of the email questions that did come at us. As Ms. Franco-Herman said, we had 73 emails. I'm a data person, an old school math teacher. Do you know how many emails we normally get? On average, 16. Some months 30, some months 2. On average, 16 this whole year. Up until this month, where it was 73. So clearly, everybody is very invested in some very important topics. High Tops was one, that got about 25% of, well, 30% of the emails. And those were pretty much down the middle of verbatim, word for word,
end relationship, end relationship, end relationship, and then some very long, prose about keeping the relationship. It was great. Nice to hear all of everybody's perspective. We also got a number of email on other things that were important and that were addressed and that were sent out to the entire community. We also received about a third of the email, which were over requests, which takes Mr. Trent and other people in this district a long time and lots of their time and efforts and the cost to you, the taxpayer, for them to be researching and looking up all of these frivolous over requests. Anyway, I just would like to say that it would be nice if we could stop talking about people. I don't talk about you. Please don't talk about me.
Okay, I'm Jeff Grant, 6 Livingston. I would like some clarification on criticizing people in the school system and who those people are versus people on the board. I find it, how can I say it, it's sour that if we see you on this board and you do stupid things or say stupid things, that we can't call that out. So I would say there's a distinction between people in the school system that are salaried people and people on the board that we vote for. So while our attorney is here, Stephen, if you could please comment on defining the distinction between people in the school system, the salaried teachers, versus people here on the board that are subject to public scrutiny as elected officials. Thank you.
And with that, we would like to close public comment. Are there any questions, Superintendent McLaughlin, that you need to respond to? No. Mr. Fabini, are you going to say something or no?
No, I can respond to that. I think that the policy speaks to the employees of our school district, that the policy certainly also speaks to respect and civility for members of the board as well.
Thank you. We're now proceeding to action agenda. If they're voting to approve action agenda items 1.1 to 4.1. Need a motion, please?
So,
I heard Mr. Burton say second. We can discuss if there's anything to discuss.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss one.
Can you please speak a little louder, Mr. Carlson? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss one briefly. 3.12, disposal of playground equipment at Orchard Hill. I was curious, are we going to put new playground equipment in there?
That is correct, yes, but the playground equipment is unsafe. Usually how we would dispose of equipment, electronics, anything is to, site people. They could either, we could sell it, or they could just, give it away for free. But since it's unsafe, it would not be good to get to another district. The only thing we can do is dispose. But yes, that is thank you.
Any other comments on the agenda items that we have for approval? Hearing none, roll call please.
Yes, Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Dowling.
Yes.
Ms. Felix.
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Spina.
Yes.
Ms. Waleka Jernigan.
Yes.
Twice as God. Ms. Franco Herman.
Yes.
Thank you. Action agenda items carried.
If there is nothing else, I am very happy to say we are closing this meeting. Thank you very much for attending tonight.